Chapter 249. Jingwan's implied meaning was obvious. If he didn't write it, it would mean that he had completely fallen out with the Luo family. Then, he shouldn't blame the Luo family for helping others to suppress him. It was an obvious threat. One could imagine how ugly Prince Rui's expression was. First, he was exposed by his own concubine and was even belittled. Then, he was humiliated by his closest brother and was even seen by his sworn enemy. Now, he was threatened by his sister-in-law to let go of the slut who made him lose face. Li Hongming believed that even a saint wouldn't be able to hold back his anger. He was a prince with power. If he compromised so easily, he wouldn't be able to go out and meet people in the future. Moreover, it was normal for a man to write a divorce letter. It must be because the woman had a problem in some aspect. However, who had ever heard of a prince writing a divorce letter? At most, it would be a sudden death. Everyone knew that it was a disgrace to write a divorce letter. Writing a divorce letter meant that you were afraid of the Yu family. It was your problem as a man. It was the Yu family who forced you to write a divorce letter. Moreover, it was a divorce letter. If you wrote it, you would probably become a laughingstock. Sister-in-law's words are meaningless. Since she has entered this Prince Rui's mansion, she is naturally this prince's woman in life and this prince's soul in death. Releasing a divorce letter is impossible. Originally, he was extremely angry, but he still leisurely tidied up his sleeves. What an outstanding gentleman. This prince will also advise sister-in-law. Since you are married, you should follow the rules of a married woman. Don't ruin the Luo family's reputation. Return the person to this prince, and this matter will be settled. This prince will also not pursue the matter of you disrespecting your husband's uncles. Otherwise, this prince will find Luo Shongshu to discuss how he taught his descendants. Jingwan looked at him indifferently. Suddenly she clapped her hands and laughed. Prince Rui is so eloquent. You are even better at reversing black and white. Thinking about it, if you don't have such a glib tongue, how could you coax all the courtiers to be willing to sacrifice their lives for you? How could you deceive all the young ladies to be loyal to you? Perhaps I should ask Imperial Father to seek justice for my younger sister. With just one sentence, he had overthrown all of Li Hongming's hard work and denied all of his talents. Everything he had depended on his mouth. Judging from Jingwan's expression, that was what she meant. If you look for her grandfather, she wouldn't mind looking for your father. Let's see who will be more embarrassed in the end. After knowing the true relationship between Li Hongyuan and noble consort Su, as well as the mask that noble consort Su had put on for her, Jingwan really wasn't afraid. The look on Li Hongming's face was extremely comforting. Should it be said that she was worthy of being the wife of the living king of hell? Her lethality was also very strong. But didn't it also mean that one shouldn't provoke her easily? Otherwise, it might be one's turn next time. Li Hongming was a gentleman. No matter how angry he was, he wouldn't do something as improper as arguing with his younger sister-in-law. Therefore, he naturally shifted the topic to Li Hongyuan. You and I are brothers. We were born from the same root. Sixth brother, you didn't do anything this time. You just watched from the sidelines and indulged your princess consort. You were so rude and damaged the harmony between us brothers. Wouldn't others say that your husband's authority is not enough? You lost face. If Imperial Mother knew, she would be sad. A married woman's mother-in-law was the real killer. Li Hongyuan looked at him as if he was an idiot. Imperial Mother is Imperial Mother. You are you. This prince has nothing to do with you. This wife is going to accompany this prince for a lifetime. This prince's brain must be flooded with water to not indulge her and help you instead. Third Imperial Brother, hurry up and write the letter to release your concubine. Then everything will be fine. Prince Rui was about to explode in anger. The people watching the show couldn't help but laugh out loud. Li Hongyuan was right. He respected Imperial Consort Su. He treated this brother no differently than any of his other brothers. If the two of them really quarreled, Imperial Consort Su could only stay out of it. Using Imperial Consort Su to pressure others was really useless. Since that's the case, then there's nothing more to say. Servants, invite Shirqing out and send her back to the prince's estate. Luo Jingying's life was currently unknown, but he wanted to take her away by force. He clearly didn't care about her life. Jingwan wanted to kill someone. Li Hongyun slightly narrowed his eyes. Watch over the Luo estate's fourth miss for this prince. Whoever dares to go in and delay the doctor's treatment will be killed without mercy. His tone was somewhat casual, but no one dared to question his words. What kind of person was the living king of hell? If he said it, then he would do it. And in Li Hongming's view, the last 3 words were simply directed at him. This was Jin Qin Wang Fu. Even if Li Hongming brought guards, they didn't enter the rear garden. Even if they rushed in, they were just a few kittens, not enough to be dismembered by the people of Jin Qin Wang Fu. People like Prince Rui were all excellent at enduring. The first thing he did was to weigh the pros and cons. He thought of the future. No matter how big the hatred was, it could wait until he ascended the throne. And at this very moment, Li Hongming's thoughts weren't hard to guess. Mu Fei had once said to let him go. Now, including the Luo family, no one should think about living. Li Hongyuan sneered in his heart. He was always self-righteous. On what basis did he think that he would be the final winner? As the saying goes, if you don't take revenge, you may not have the chance to do so in the future. You don't even have the ability to do so. With that power, you should take revenge now. If you hold it in too much, you're not afraid of holding it in until you break. If sixth brother likes it, then leave it for sixth brother. Sisters sharing a husband is also a good story. Let's go. Prince Rui, I won't write the letter of releasing concubines today. I'll go to the palace in a while and ask Imperial Father to judge. Jingwan said coldly. At this moment, Li Hongming naturally didn't have a good expression. Luo Jingying has been in Prince Rui's mansion for so long, but your Luo family didn't care about it. Now you have the reason to argue with this prince. Do you really think this prince has no temper? If you want to go to the palace, fine, this prince will go with you. I'll also call Luo Shangshu. I'd like to see what you have to force this prince to write the letter of releasing concubines. Jingwan was also very clear that this kind of face-slapping matter would not end well in front of Lu Qingdi. As a father, it was impossible for him to protect his daughter-in-law. In fact, in the eyes of some men, only children with their own bloodline were relatives. Women, even if they were married, were outsiders. However, this was on the premise that Li Hongming didn't do those disgusting things. Even if she couldn't get anything out of it, she could still ruin his reputation. Don't care about it, Jingwan sneered. Indeed, to avoid suspicion. The Luo family doesn't want to have anything to do with you, Prince Rui. What else can it be? A little girl just over 14 years old, arrogant, young and ignorant. Prince Rui wanted to use the Luo family for you. So he cheated her of her body and made her pregnant. If not, you want to take her as a concubine. You're dreaming. Could it be that the Luo family's daughter can't get married and has to be degraded to be your concubine? Since she has entered Prince Rui's mansion, our Luo family will accept it. If you have a little conscience and humanity, even if you don't really like her, you shouldn't abuse her. Your mansion can't afford to raise an idle person, not to mention she is pregnant with your child. Even a vicious tiger won't eat its cubs. Speaking of which, he is just a beast. Prince Ruiyu. Worse than a beast. More than one person silently said Jingwan's unfinished words in their hearts. You. What, you don't want to admit it? Or do you want to say that my fourth sister seduced you? How old are you? How old is she? What have you experienced? What has she experienced? What is your identity? What is her identity? If you don't cross the line, can she get close to you? A real man should dare to take responsibility for his actions. Don't push everything to women. Otherwise, you're not a man. I'm really curious. How many women in the backyard of Prince Rui's mansion were coaxed by Prince Rui with sweet words and promises of eternal love? Jingwan looked at Princess Lu with a deep meaning. If this was how the official princess consort came about, it would be a big joke. Everyone knew that this was impossible. However, there were too many people who liked to gossip, who liked to echo the opinions of others. Public opinion could melt gold, accumulating to destroy the bones. If they really wanted to splash dirty water on you, when there were many enemies, they would definitely kill you. Once this point was confirmed, Rui Qin Wang's reputation would definitely be worse than Jin Qin Wang's. Sister-in-law, please be careful with your words. Princess Lu endured the humiliation and said. Jingwan squatted. Sister-in-law, please advise me. If you say I'm wrong, fine. You point it out and I'll change. Princess Lu almost fainted from anger. Good. The Luo family really raised a good daughter. Prince Rui almost gnashed his teeth and said. You slandered Ben Wang like this. Aren't you also ruining Luo Jingying's reputation? What good will it do to the Luo family? She has already committed suicide. What reputation does she still want? Sometimes, death could wash away the stain on one's name. Even though Luo Jingying had gotten pregnant out of wedlock and ruined her reputation, she had already paid the price with her life. She was not a heinous person. Would she still be dragged out and humiliated after her death? How big of an impact would it have on the Luo family? Obviously, no matter whether Luo Jingying could survive or not, Jingwan had already thought of a way out for her. Death. In fact, this was also to save Prince Rui's face. It was better not to have a deep hatred for such an enemy. She was not afraid of him. However, she didn't care. But the Luo family might be in trouble, especially her grandfather. He would inevitably suffer when facing the attacks of Prince Rui's family. Prince Rui probably understood Jingwan's meaning now. He looked at her deeply. My sixth brother really married a good wife. In fact, as long as there was a slight possibility, Prince Rui didn't want to completely fall out with Luo Peishan. Even if he couldn't use her, he couldn't make her his enemy. Third brother, you don't need to tell me this. Why don't you give me the writing brush, ink, paper and inkstone? Li Hongming was full of haze. He quickly wrote the concubine's letter. During the whole process, the blue veins on the back of his hand were about to burst. When he finished, he threw the writing brush away. If there are rumors outside that shouldn't be, it's up to me. Even if I use the Ministry of Justice, the Supreme Court and the government, I will investigate the source of the rumors. Li Hongyuan said lightly. This was a warning to the other brothers. Li Hongming turned around and left. Seeing the gloating brothers, he shouted, Get out! At this time, even Prince Kong didn't want to provoke him. Princess Lu took one last look at Jingwan and left without saying anything. However, Jingwan didn't see pure hatred in her eyes. Instead, there was a kind of indescribable complexity. Jingwan picked up the concubine's letter and looked at it. There was no problem. She turned back. Prince, sorry for the delay. Li Hongyuan nodded and asked the other brothers to go in. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653395. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com Mobile Edition. Chapter 250. It was reasonable to say that after today's incident, everyone should return to their own homes. However, the King of Hell had already invited them in. If they still found an excuse to leave, were they deliberately not giving him face? Or deliberately not giving him face? The King of Hell had already caused them all kinds of pain. Now, there was the King of Hell's consort whose fighting prowess was off the charts. She clearly looked gentle, dignified, and easy to get along with, but she forced the most powerful of the brothers to write a letter to let her go. Although it couldn't be publicized, it was enough for them to laugh at Li Hongming for several years. Therefore, they all pretended to be deaf and dumb, as if nothing had happened. Because of Luo Jingying, Jingwan temporarily couldn't entertain the sisters-in-law. Naturally, only Gong Mama could take care of it. And Li Hongyuan was a willful master. Now that he wanted to follow his wife, he didn't have time to take care of others. Therefore it was Gonggong Mumu who took care of it. Whether it was those Wang Ye or those Wang Fei, they all silently ridiculed in their hearts. Since he didn't have time, just send them away. Why keep them here? Doctor, how is my fourth sister? Jingwen looked at Luo Jingying. Because the makeup on her face had been completely wiped away by the servant girls, her face was deathly pale and abnormally ugly. There was no trace of blood on her lips, and she had already fallen into a coma. But fortunately, although her breath was weak, she was still alive. The doctor hurriedly greeted Wang Ye Wang Fei this. For a moment, the doctor didn't know how to address Luo Jingying and braced himself to speak. Foreign. He carefully glanced at Jingwen. Seeing that she didn't have any reaction, he continued to speak, but still with nervousness and apprehension. For the time being, her life is not in danger. It's just that I don't know if she can wake up. This one is incompetent. Jingwen frowned. In fact, she had already expected this situation. It was already fortunate that she didn't die. After all, she was hit so hard that she really had the determination to die. However, this was not her previous life where she could use an intravenous drip to save her life. If she didn't wake up in a few days, she might die. In any case, you have to save her life first. If you need any medicine, just say it. Jin Wangfu must have the herbs that other places didn't have. Yes, I will do my best. It's just that this madam's condition is very bad. Not only does she have a head injury, but she also didn't recuperate well after the miscarriage. She's suffering from a chronic illness, and it's probably because she can't keep up with her diet. Jingwen understood that she was malnourished, but she didn't know if it was her own fault or if Jin Qin Wangfu treated her harshly in this aspect. Just do your best. She then ordered the maidservants to serve him well and pulled Li Hongyuan out. Does Wang Ye have a better doctor? I need time. And Jiu had gone out to carry out a mission and wasn't around. Calculating the time, it would take at least 2 more days for him to rush back. As for that white ape roaming doctor, because of an emergency, even though he knew his whereabouts, it would take at least 10 days to half a month for him to come back. Moreover, he didn't think that Luo Jingying was worth him spending so much effort to get a roaming doctor to come back for treatment. How long will it take? 3 days. Li Hongyuan seemed a little indifferent. He was narrow-minded and held grudges. If it wasn't for his little sweetheart not wanting Luo Jingying to lose her life, he would have definitely thrown her out. Fourth, Mimi's current condition is special. There's no way to call for an imperial physician to come take a look. No matter, I'll take care of everything. In any case, even if the news is sealed, the people who should know will still know. It wasn't a small matter. For example, his old man or those women in the harem, they would definitely know. Jingwen was a little hesitant. It won't be easy for you to explain to Gui Fei Nyongyang. It's fine, she won't find me for this matter. But you humiliated her son and made him lose face. She will definitely bear a grudge. I can't fall out with her for the time being, so when you meet her alone, you have to be careful. Although under normal circumstances, no one can stop me, but for Fu Huang, there are times when I still have to give him face. Jingwen nodded, indicating that she understood. Unless she sat on the highest position, she would have some scruples. Don't worry, as long as Gui Fei Nyongyang wants to maintain her image, I will be fine. If she really wants to do something to me, then she can't blame me for peeling off her face. In fact, I don't think she will do anything to me. After all, there are too many eyes in the palace. If I'm not careful, I might leave behind something that can be used against me. On the contrary, she might even use this matter to gain some benefits from grandfather. After all, we were in the wrong when we forced Prince Rui to write the letter of release. This is indeed possible, but I can't be 100% sure. Most likely it depends on Li Hongming's attitude. If it was the Empress, there is no doubt that she would do what you said. The Empress has never cared about her son. In this aspect, Gui Fei is more humane than the Empress. Li Hongming has never encountered such a humiliating matter. He's probably going to explode from anger. Now let's see if he can completely endure it. He's never been so humiliated. Wang Yi didn't do anything to him. Jingwan was a bit curious, but also a bit teasing. Li Hongyuan raised his eyebrows. Gue Fei is my adoptive mother. The mother-son relationship is deep. No matter what, she has to give her own son some face. No matter how she publicly tramples on him, there's a limit. It wasn't that Jing Wan hadn't heard of this person in front of her. She had thought that he was a little chunibu, but it turned out that he was just putting on a show for others to see. He was just toying with some people. Speaking of which, this person was only 23 years old. In his previous life, he might have already graduated from university, or he might not have. Most people at this age were still full of little fresh meat. Compared to real little fresh meat, this man was unbelievably mature in all aspects. Shouldn't I be honored by this? After all, we just got married and we broke Wang Ye's record. Indeed, Wan is still the best. The student has surpassed the master. Li Hongyuan smiled and pinched her face. Jingwan lightly slapped him. I'm just a fox assuming the majesty of a tiger. If I didn't know you were behind me, I wouldn't be able to be tough. No matter what, I can't bring trouble to the Luo family. Although grandfather is the Minister of Personnel, Prince Rue is determined to pull him down. Without anyone's help, grandfather will most likely fall from grace. Don't talk about assuming the majesty of a tiger. Even if the fox climbed on top of the tiger's head and abused him, I'd be happy too. Although it seemed like a joke, Jingwan could feel that he was serious. Jingwan reached out and hugged him. Ah Yuan, thank you. Just a verbal thank you and that's it. Li Hongyuan put his hand around her waist and rubbed his chin on the top of her head. He laughed softly. Jingwan's waist was sensitive and almost went limp. She couldn't help but pinch him. Pervert. She scolded him softly. I've always been a pervert. Wan didn't find out today. Wan, are you going to give me or not? Li Hongyuan pretended to be frivolous and lifted Jingwan's chin. That's enough. If others see this, how can I face others? Who can see it? Who among us doesn't know? Tell me, are you going to give me or not? Yes. Seeing that this shameless person was about to kiss her, Jingwan quickly dodged and reached out to cover his mouth. Then she suddenly retracted her hand because this bastard actually licked her palm. This time he really pushed her away rudely. Someone. Li Hongyuan had achieved his goal. He knew when to stop. If he angered his little sweetheart, he was worried that he wouldn't be able to guarantee his dinner tonight. Jingwan ordered someone to immediately call for an imperial physician. In fact, the medical skills of the physicians in Jin Wangfu were not much worse than those in the imperial hospital. After all, in these aspects, Lu Qingdi was absolutely generous to this son. However, the same medical skills, the direction of specialization may be different. At the same time, someone was sent to the Luo family to inform grandmother of this matter. Whether to directly send Luo Jingying back or directly send him away, they needed to come up with a plan. All that was left was to wait. The husband and wife finally had the time to take care of the guests in the Fu. Jingwan went to the pavilion in the middle of the lake in the rear courtyard. Her sisters-in-law were there to enjoy the singing and dancing performances. In fact, when these Wang Fei were brought there, they saw a pool of beauties. Each and every one of them were heavenly beauties. The program that had long been arranged was performed in front of them. The enchanting dance, the singing voice of a lark, the first-rate zither skills. Each and every one of them was a little confused. Were they sure that they didn't get their positions reversed with the men? https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653398. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Come Bikin. Com mobile version reading website. Bikin. Chapter 251. After arriving, Jingwon first expressed her apologies and exchanged pleasantries with each other. After sitting down, she ate some snacks and drank flower tea while chatting with her sisters-in-law. Since she had already entered this circle, she naturally had to blend in. At least on the surface, it was necessary to show harmony and friendship. Speaking of which, among the 6 people present, Jingwon was the youngest. However, according to seniority, there were only 2 people in front of her. Needless to say, Princess Consort Kong wasn't even born yet. The second prince was already dead. Princess Consort Lu had already left. As for Princess Consort Gong, she had already suffered losses in Jingwon's hands. She had been repeatedly beaten by her father and aunt. Even if she had resentment in her heart, she could only suppress it. At this moment, she was trying her best to maintain a calm expression. The 5th prince was a sickly invalid who didn't participate in anything. His princess consort was just like Do, she was amiable to everyone. Needless to say, the last few people didn't have much of a presence. Jingwon was married for the first time, but her aura was not weak at all. Moreover, this was her home ground, so she definitely had the demeanor of the head of the family. In fact, if it were not for the fact that she had no intention of suppressing them, some of them would be too ashamed to show their faces. While smiling sweetly, she had already obtained a lot of information from some trivial matters that she wanted to know. She had no choice. Her husband was ambitious. Even if she could not help him, she could not drag him down. Jingwon was multitasking. She was talking to them while watching the performance. These beauties were really not bad. Of course, they were not just enchanting. Some of them were also imposing and sharp. They were pleasing to the eye. 6th sister-in-law, these beauties have been taken by us. Where are the prince and the others? Could there be more beautiful ones? The 10th princess consort smiled. After all, this was what they cared about the most. It was already very good that they could hold back until now to ask. No matter how beautiful they are just this level. The prince and the others are not as lucky as us. They are now listening to a performance, a martial arts performance. Jingwon looked back and winked. She smiled slyly at the 10th princess consort. The 10th princess consort was not the only one who was surprised. 6th sister-in-law, you're really awesome. There were many people who knew about the theatrical troupe and performers that Jean Qin Wang Fu raised, but not many had seen it. However, Li Hongyuan's brothers had more or less seen it before, and every time they would be extremely envious. But what could they do? The living king of hell completely didn't seem to understand their intentions. He was very casual when he sent other beauties, but this time he was very stingy. It wasn't as if she hadn't heard their nagging before coming here. As his wife, she felt bitter in her heart, but she couldn't say a single word. In the end, they didn't see the beauties they were longing for. The beauties from the opera troupe were also nowhere to be seen. A group of men were sitting there watching the martial arts show. Just by imagining it, one could imagine how aggrieved they were. The group of Wang Fei could not help but cover their mouths as they giggled. They could not be blamed for being unkind. It had to be known that this kind of opportunity was too rare. They did not have to worry that they would shamelessly ask the living king of hell for him. Therefore, when they looked at these beauties again, they were not so disgusted. They even whispered to each other and admired them. In fact, some people were indeed very aggrieved at this time and couldn't help but open their mouths. It was too boring. Li Hongyuan was calm and unperturbed. That appearance seemed to be quite attentive. 6th brother, you're also interested in this kind of thing? The 7th prince expressed his puzzlement. It's pretty good. Anyway, I'm tired of watching other things. It's not bad to occasionally change the taste. You're tired of watching it, but the brothers are very greedy. We're all brothers, you can't play like this. 6th brother, let's change it. Then he clicked on that decadent sound. No one is singing, Li Hongyuan said very straightforwardly. Your sister-in-law said that no one is serving tea. The person was sent to serve tea. There's only the martial arts show to watch. Just put up with it. He almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. His mother, this was the first time he heard the words "put up with it" from the living king of hell's mouth. Had he ever put up with it? Who could let him put up with it? But this matter really happened. Because the fifth prince's health was not good. He had always restrained himself when it came to women. Moreover, the doctor told him to guard against arrogance and rashness. He must avoid getting angry by all means. Only then could he live longer. He was purely gathering with his brothers and didn't have any crooked thoughts. At this moment he was a bit teasing. Old Sixth, according to what you said, could it be that those tricks you raised were also taken by your sister-in-law? You're enjoying the dance and listening to music with your wife. Well, this living king of hell was captured by his wife. Everyone was speechless. This living king of hell was going to be captured. Speaking of which, wouldn't it be even more difficult for them to find a place to pass the time in the future? Although it wasn't easy in the past, it was still better than completely cutting off all avenues. Well, the beauties here could only be seen. They couldn't touch or eat them. Because of this, their hearts were even more itchy. They could go to the brothels, but they had to care about their reputation and didn't dare to be too brazen. Moreover, when they saw the beauties in their brother's residence, they always felt that those beauties were vulgar. Therefore, whether it was true or false, they ridiculed him with a few sentences, letting him assert his position as the husband. To be captured by his wife, it was too shameful. Li Hongyuan was completely unconcerned. Not to mention that he would fly into a rage out of humiliation. He seemed to be in a good mood. On Jingwan's side, the sisters-in-law more or less bred some envy and jealousy, but it wasn't serious. They were all too clear about what kind of person Jin Qinhuang was. In the past, just listening to his right and wrong was enough to pass a lot of time. Only then did he marry a wife. She was also delicate and tender. Any man would be fresh for a period of time. What kind of person was Jin Qinhuang? When he pampered someone, he could pamper them to the heavens. After the pampering, seeing that she was his first wife, perhaps he could still leave behind some dignity. However, that was all, nothing more. Sixth sister-in-law, now that you have everything in Jin Qinhuang Fu in your hands, it would be better to send 2 of these beauties to sister-in-law and let sister-in-law bring them back to pass the time. Gong Qin Wangfei said with a fake smile. No new wife would touch the beauties raised by her husband. Regardless of whether or not her husband was holding you in the palm of his hand, obedient, when he was in high spirits, naturally nothing was wrong. But once he was tired, everything was wrong. Women who hadn't yet established themselves wouldn't make this kind of mistake. Moreover, entering the door was already like this. A jealous woman, an unvirtuous name was appropriate. Didn't you want to show off? Fine, I'll see how you continue. Jingwan read this message from Gong Qin Wangfei's eyes. Jingwan smiled. Fourth sister-in-law has taken a fancy to them, it's their fortune. If you like, you can pick 2 more. Gong Qin Wangfei almost fainted from anger. Bringing these foxes back, did she have nothing better to do? However, the one who opened her mouth was her. If she pushed them away now, wouldn't it be slapping her own face? Then many thanks to sixth sister-in-law. It's just, this kind of good thing, how can sister-in-law monopolize it? Us sisters-in-law, everyone should have a share. She didn't know how to be happy, so the others shouldn't think about being happy. Jingwan smiled and nodded. Naturally so. She was still thinking about how to send these people out. It was simply like someone giving her a pillow when she wanted to sleep. She also didn't need to attract hatred. It simply couldn't be more wonderful. The others all had the heart to bite Gong Qin Wangfei to death, this idiot. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653401 HTML chapter error. Click here to report exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bikin.com. Bikugo mobile reading website. Bikin. Chapter 252. Gong Qin Wang Fei also knew that she would offend people like this, but her heart was unhappy. The others faintly looked at Jingwen. How did they meet someone like you who didn't play by the rules? She had happily sent them away. Although she didn't take the initiative to send them away, who didn't know that she was pushing the boat along with the current? More or less, she would leave behind a reputation of being jealous, and there was also her own husband. In the end, she didn't have any experience, so she would be foolish and do such an unwise thing. Jingwen could roughly guess their meaning, but she didn't really care. Reputation and whatnot were all empty. There was no need to care about it. Moreover, if a man really cared about you, so what if he had this kind of reputation? It wouldn't even become a burden, and he would be happy to be criticized by more people. If a man didn't care but you cared, then you reaped what you sowed. There was nothing to say. Therefore, no matter from which aspect, it wouldn't affect Jingwen. Jin Qin Wang Fu raised a lot of swindlers, but outsiders didn't know how many there were. Moreover, the one who first proposed to send people away was Li Hongyuan himself. Jingwen didn't think that he would do such a thing for no reason. He must have his intentions. Jingwen's first guess was that he might want to plant a spy. However, last night, when Li Hongyuan asked her to choose the people to send out, Jingwen became suspicious again. If it was planting a spy, shouldn't it have been done long ago? Why wait until now? This method wasn't very good. Everyone knew the current situation. The people sent by the brothers would definitely be on guard. Those sent out would most likely be treated as the purest playthings. Jingwen really couldn't understand what he wanted to do. And Li Hongyuan just smiled and didn't speak. That appearance was really a bit deserving of a spanking. Jingwen was clear about the situation that these people would face if they were sent out, so she went to see all the swindlers and directly told them the whole story. Based on the principle of voluntariness, she also promised that if they wanted to stay in Jin Qin Wang Fu, as long as they knew their place, they wouldn't be short of a mouthful of food. Jingwen had good intentions, but most people misunderstood. They thought that she was the mistress of the house and didn't like them, so she wanted to find a way to deal with them. They knew that this was human nature, but there were still people who were resentful. And these people more or less had some thoughts in their hearts. No matter how bad Jin Qin Wang's reputation was in their eyes, he was handsome, rich, and aloof. They couldn't stop their hearts from palpitating. After that, they cried like raindrops on pear blossoms and swore that they did not have any improper thoughts towards Wang Yi and begged Wang Fei not to send them away. Jingwen was sick of people who didn't understand human language. Jingwen had a general understanding of these people. She knew who had ulterior motives. She also knew that even if you had ulterior motives, as long as you didn't make a fuss, no one would care about what you were thinking. No matter how good her temper was, there was a limit. Li Hongyuan cared about her, so naturally, he couldn't push her out. Since he jumped out of his own accord, he naturally couldn't blame her for not giving him face. Once it was clear, she would naturally flick her sleeves and leave. Who would have the patience to chat with you? However, Jingwen didn't know that as soon as she left, Mu Gonggong brought people to block the mouth of the person who made the most noise and directly dragged him out. The rest of the people kept quiet out of fear. Mu Gonggong sneered again and again. Wang Fei is merciful, so she gave you the chance to choose. If it was someone else, all of you would have been beaten to death. Stay or not stay, it's that simple. You just had to make trouble. Mu Gonggong was Jin Qin Wang's trusted aide. Without his instructions, Mu Gonggong would never do such a thing. Obviously, Jin Qin Wang not only knew and agreed to this matter, but also completely stood on Wang Fei's side. They were nothing. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey, it was better to do so. Then, one by one, they stopped and seriously thought about whether they should stay or leave. There were those who tried to climb up and felt that Jin Qin Wang Fu was hopeless, so they naturally chose to leave and fight for their future. There were also those who wanted to gamble, hoping that Jingwan really had a bit of benevolence and asked for the protection of the Wangfu to spend the rest of their lives in peace. There were also those who still didn't give up on Jin Qinhuang. At this time it was still early. These Wangfei were actually calculating in their hearts that they wouldn't pull people to their side now. They would wait until the banquet was over to enjoy the scenery, chat with them, and then wait until after the banquet. No one would mention it. Maybe they could fool this matter. Unfortunately, their idea was beautiful, but their husbands were completely useless. On this side they just made a decision, and on the other side, Mu Gonggong very indignantly tattled on them to his master. Li Hongyuan's expression was indifferent. If you want to give it, then give it. Sister-in-law already asked for it, can you still not give it? Learn from your Wangfei. Be more magnanimous and don't be so petty. It's just a few tricks. Master's lecture is right. Mu Gonggong hurriedly apologized. This time, Li Hongyuan's image in the eyes of the other brothers had been discounted. However, no matter what they thought, no one expressed it. It was said to be given to their Wangfei, but in fact, it wasn't given to them. Except for Wu Wangye, everyone was envious. Now that there was a chance to eat it, who would refuse? Therefore, the Wangfei's calculations were bound to fall through. After appreciating the dance and listening to the songs, Jingwan took them to stroll around the garden. Because she herself wasn't very familiar with it, only the 4 maids, Ci, Gu and Fu, waited on her side. Because they already knew that Wangfei was knowledgeable about flowers, they more or less dabbled in this aspect. Therefore, when they explained to the Wangfei, their words were clear and logical, with a stream of witty words. From admiring the exquisite construction of the Fu, and then looking at Jingwan, their gazes were subtle. Those who didn't have a name or status were easy to dismiss. But what about these maids who had served for several years? Jingwan turned a blind eye to their mocking and gloating expressions. These 4 maids were so obedient that it was a bit strange. Don't mention climbing into the bed in the past few days after she married. When a certain person wasn't around, they were all attentive and diligent in serving her. Attentive and considerate, they were even more meticulous than her maidservants, making her maidservants suspect that they were facing the danger of being laid off. However, they weren't as good as the others, so they didn't dare to say it out loud. The 2 groups of people were trying to compete for favor in front of her. When a certain person was around, Ci, Gu and Fu would hide as far away as possible. It wasn't like facing a master that they had served for several years, but rather a plague that they couldn't avoid. When needed, they would still be in front of her. Once or twice, a certain person even mixed them up. This was a person who had served for several years. Only ghosts would believe it. The banquet was very sumptuous. Teske. Everyone says that the things that Jin Qinhuang uses are even better than Fu Huang's. Seeing it today, it really does live up to its reputation. When these words were spoken, the sour water was bubbling and bubbling. If you ask me, this cook's culinary skills are the best. 6th sister-in-law. How about lending the cook to sister-in-law to order about? 5th Wangfei said with a smile. Without leaving a trace, she suppressed Gong Qin Wangfei's words. Everyone knew that Lu Chengdi was good to Jin Qinhuang. Everything good was first given to this son. However, to say that everything was better than Lu Chengdi, it was certainly impossible. Most of the time it was true that they were equal. It was good to know these things, but if they were pulled apart, there would be no meaning. That won't do. Wangye's mouth is picky. The 5th sister-in-law likes, you can come over to eat at any time. In any case, I reckon that I'm usually idle most of the time. Just treat it as accompanying me. Jingwan smiled. 5th Wangfei clapped her hands and smiled. This is what sister-in-law said. When the time comes, don't say that I'm staying in your Fu and not leaving. I couldn't ask for more. 5th Wangye was sickly and powerless. He had always been an invisible person. No matter who got close to him, no one would say anything. 5th sister-in-law, don't look so poor. In any case, you're Fu Huang's son. Don't say it like you're being treated harshly. Father naturally treats all the princes equally. the fifth princess consort said indifferently. Jingwan's eyes flashed slightly. No matter what, this fifth sister-in-law didn't seem to be as soft as the rumors said. Speaking of which, she reckoned that she was forced by the situation. However, her complexion looked good. It could be imagined that her days should be good. Others said that she married a sickly man and might become a widow at any time. From the day of her marriage, her life was ruined. In fact, Fifth Wangye's harem was even worse than that of ordinary low-ranking officials. Moreover, because of his health, he felt ashamed to face his princess. Therefore, although there was no deep love between them, they were still harmonious and beautiful. Although there was no strong love in their hearts, they were the closest people and supported each other all the way. Fifth Wangfei had a peace that others didn't have. Even if the emperor changed, their family didn't have to worry about being punished. Now, they didn't have to be involved in the fight for the throne. They didn't have to tremble in fear and be exhausted all the time. Therefore, whether these days were good or bad was like drinking water. Only the wearer knows whether the water is hot or cold. After the banquet, they wandered around the garden and listened to the opera. Although Li Hongyuan's brothers had more or less visited his mansion before, they hadn't been to most of the places in the back garden. Today, they set foot in some areas that they hadn't been to before. Sure enough, Old Sixth was the one who knew how to enjoy life the most. As expected, the Wangfei wanted to muddle through, but their husband couldn't wait. When it was time to leave, if it was in the past, he would be very straightforward, but this time he dilly-dallied, wanting to say something but hesitating. In the end, the Gong prince couldn't bear it and directly asked his Wangfei, "I heard that you asked sixth sister-in-law for a person. Who is it?" To make Wangfei so concerned. Let this prince take a look. Gong Qin Wangfei was almost angered to death. In the end, who was concerned? Looking at him, she couldn't help hating him. Since the Gong prince and the left governor became estranged, he no longer restrained himself when it came to women. He almost directly told his Wangfei, "Your father doesn't want to help me, why should this prince support you?" No matter how insolent Gong Qin Wangfei was, now she didn't dare to easily clean up the harem. This matter, I almost forgot. Jingwan explained with a smile. "Come, call the person over, let the sisters-in-law choose." Seeing Jingwan putting on an act, new and old hatred bubbled up. The Gong Qin Wangfei couldn't wait to strangle her. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653403. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, no registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile edition. Chapter 253. There were more than 30 to 40 courtesans in the Fu, and more than half of them were willing to be sent out. Excluding Jingwan, there were 5 other people. On average, each person would get 3 and there would still be some left. Of course, this was what Jingwan thought was the ideal situation. Jingwan knew that if this was the case, if she really said it like that, it would definitely attract hatred. According to their selfish thoughts, they probably didn't want a single one. However, the number of people who wanted to leave still exceeded Jingwan's expectations. Was it that most of the beauties had the ambition to conquer men and climb to a high position? Or was it that her credibility was too low? Well, it should be that 99% of the matriarchs had very low credibility in the hearts of the foxy beauties. They never thought that any matriarchs would sincerely and generously accept them. Their beauty was the original sin. As women, the matriarchs would only be jealous and hate, and would not appreciate or like them. Jingwan could roughly guess this kind of situation. Then it would be like that. Would she be able to sit down and hold those people's hands to have a heart-to-heart talk? That would really be a joke. Although fourth sister-in-law was the vanguard today, she would not take advantage of them too much. Thinking about it this way, Jingwon felt that she had almost offended all of these sisters-in-law. It was a little troublesome. Nearly 20 beauties of different shapes lined up in a row. Jin Qin Wang Fu was rich, and they were specially for people to look at. Naturally, they were not ill-treated in dressing up. Now that they had specially dressed up, they were even more gorgeously dressed and extremely beautiful. Some people's eyes couldn't wait to stick to their bodies, while others couldn't wait to peel their skin and pull out their tendons. Their faces were dignified and virtuous, and even full of smiles, but the hands hidden in their sleeves were already tightly clenched. The depths of their eyes seemed to be dipped in poison. In their hearts, words like foxy beauties, lowly hoofs, and the like flew together. This is the so-called order of seniority. Fourth sister-in-law, you choose first. Ninth Wang Fei smiled. She quickly chose the most beautiful ones, and the more she chose, the better. She didn't mind that there were some ugly melons and cracked dates left in the end. Speaking of seniority, shouldn't Ben Wang also choose first? Prince Kong seemed to be reserved, but his eyes couldn't be restrained, and there was a bit of urgency in his tone. This prince was given to sister-in-law and sister-in-law by Wang Fei. What does it have to do with you? We'll talk about it after you marry the second princess. Prince Kang's face darkened. He hadn't considered this point at all. In his opinion, what gift to Wang Fei? Wasn't it a gift to him and his brother? Women were just in name. Now, Li Hongyuan bluntly slapped him in the face. That may be the case, but Prince Kong is going to marry a second consort soon. I'll bring them back now and give them to eldest sister-in-law after she marries. Since you're so impatient, then take them away, take them all away. Jingwon pretended to look up at the sky. It was blue and bright, but Jingwon felt a little sad. Sigh, she had offended the daughter of the Minister of Works before she even became her sister-in-law. Her husband was a master who had drawn the hatred of the entire world. She was going to follow in his footsteps. Jingwon glanced at Li Hongyuan. She was very suspicious. Did he do this on purpose to isolate her from the outside world? It just so happened that when her eyes met with Li Hongyuan's, it gave people the illusion that he was watching you all the time, and that you could see his gentle and affectionate eyes at any time when you turned around. Jingwon felt her cheeks were a little hot. She looked away without a trace. Then, her suspicions were thrown beyond the highest heavens. Prince Kong was humiliated by Li Hongyuan. He wanted to stubbornly say no, but he couldn't do anything. Among this group of beauties, there was one that he had been eyeing for a long time. As the saying goes, the more you can't eat, the more you want to eat. Maybe there won't be such a shop after this village. So, he suppressed his anger and didn't become irritable. It was rare for him to not be impulsive and reckless. The reason was a woman. If the Empress knew, she didn't know what expression she would make. The Empress was competitive and ambitious all her life. Her son might be her biggest failure. He was easy to control, but sometimes he was very stupid. He always caused trouble and caught people off guard. To be honest, Empress Sun felt that if Li Hongming was her son, then whether it was the imperial court or the harem, imperial concubine Su would have no place. So, Prince Kong often made people want to send him back to the furnace to be remade. Then, Prince Kong unceremoniously chose the person he wanted. Then he wanted to choose the second one. Eldest brother, enough is enough. The brother next to him reminded him coldly. Prince Kong reluctantly put away the idea of continuing to choose people. The people that Prince Kong chose might not be the same as the others. These beauties each had their own merits. It was hard to judge who was the best. So, there would not be a situation where several brothers fought for the same one. Under the great pressure of their husbands, the princesses originally wanted to choose the least outstanding one. However, compared these foxes with the ones in their harem, it seemed that even the least outstanding one was a little better than them. In this case, it was better to choose the good one and be virtuous and generous. Maybe they could win their husband's favor. Jingwon saw all their struggles. To be honest, the only person who didn't feel any pressure about this matter was probably the fifth princess. These beauties were given to her. They were probably just for her to pass the time when she had nothing to do. So, to a certain extent, it was not a bad thing that her husband was not in good health. In Jingwan's view, choosing beauties for her husband was actually a bit like a wife choosing a mistress for her husband. This kind of thing, no matter how she thought about it, was uncomfortable. In order to win her husband's favor, she had to be magnanimous. She had to choose the beautiful one, the one who was the biggest threat to her future. If he didn't love her, it was fine. If he loved her and loved her deeply, it was simply a kind of torture. As the person who took the lead in this matter, Jingwan felt that it was very unkind. Jingwan glanced at Li Hongyuan again. Her expression was indifferent, completely indifferent to this matter. Jingwan was discouraged. Forget it, she was still in the gray area where light and darkness intersected. How could she have time to sympathize with others? This kind of pressure to choose one by one, in the end, it really was evenly divided. What happened to only wanting one? The Gongqin princess consort was hated to death, and Jingwan was not much worse. The last one this prince will reluctantly accept. Give the last one to me. I rarely go out on weekdays, so it's really boring in the Fu. The fifth princess consort smiled. Naturally, I won't compete with fifth sister-in-law, but Prince Kang's gaze turned to Jingwan. Sixth sister-in-law is too stingy, hiding the best one for herself. There was a saying that a man whose heart was not content was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Prince Kong was such a person. If possible, he even wanted to take all of them. He got 3, but he was still thinking about the rest. Of course, the best one should be kept for myself. Being surrounded by beauties, enjoying dances and listening to music, is not a great pleasure. Jingwan smiled. So, even if she gave them away, she didn't dare to go too far. The most seductive one was still in her hands. Thinking like this, their hearts felt more balanced. When they looked at Jingwan, their hatred lessened a bit. Jingwan also didn't know their thoughts. Otherwise, she would not know whether to laugh or cry. This logic was also a bit strange. What she said was the truth. How could it make people distort it? However, there was someone who believed it but also distorted it. Li Hongyuan felt that they should be dealt with. Who cared whether they were willing to leave or not? What did they mean by circling around his wife all day long? It was indeed a wrong decision to raise them to relieve Wan Wan's boredom. With him around, how could Wan Wan be bored? They came empty-handed, but returned with big gifts. Should they be happy or unhappy? After sending away these people who were at the top of the pyramid, Jingwan's expression became a bit lighter. What's wrong? Li Hongyuan reached out to hold Jingwan. Are you tired? I won't let them come in the future. Many times, Jingwan was really helpless and speechless in front of this man. I didn't do anything. How can I be tired? Jingwan stared at him. Was it true that male power was supreme? He could squander women's feelings so unscrupulously and crush their hearts. Was he really not afraid of retribution one day? However, retribution was funny when she thought about it. Not to mention that they never thought that they were wrong. Even if they were wrong, they wouldn't care about any retribution. We are husband and wife. What can't you tell me? Li Hongyuan stroked her face gently. Jingwan paused. In any case, I'm your wife. How can you not give me face, even if it's just pretending? So hateful. She wrapped her arms around Li Hongyuan's neck and rubbed her fingers on the back of his neck. She opened her hand and pinched the back of his neck. Inexplicably, she was filled with hostility. She wanted to break this man's neck. Li Hongyuan naturally understood Jingwan's meaning. How could he not feel the change in Jingwan's mood? After all, she was not like them. It was not easy to hide her emotions. His sweetheart's possessiveness towards him was getting stronger and stronger. This was a good sign. However, he didn't do anything wrong to her. Wanting to take his life was not good. They are princes. Without the restrictions of the Yu clan, they naturally can do whatever they want. They are just a few playthings. How can they have any scruples? Even if it was reported to Imperial Father, he would probably be reprimanded as making a fuss over nothing and not being magnanimous. So, Prince is also this unscrupulous, Jingwon said indifferently. In fact, there was a coldness that she didn't notice. How they are has nothing to do with me. The only thing that concerns me is you. Won't. Jingwon covered his mouth. The cruelest thing is to give a promise, to give a hope, and then ruthlessly crush it with your own hands. How many pledges of undying love can withstand the erosion of time? It's already very good to have a few years. Lee Hongyuan didn't say anything. He directly pulled Jingwon into his arms and kissed her. They were still in the courtyard. Not only were there personal attendants, there were also other servants in the residence. How could they kiss each other just like that? How could it be? Anyway, Lee Hongyuan didn't care whether it was appropriate or not. Jingwon also didn't care about other people at this time. She was a little emotional at this time, so rules were all thrown to the back of her mind. When encountering such a master, the people around her were the most embarrassed. They all hurriedly hid away. Because of Jingwon's response, Lee Hongyuan's anger was directly aroused. He directly carried Jingwon back to the main courtyard and directly entered the bedroom. The people who originally stayed in the main courtyard were shocked and hurriedly retreated. This kind of daytime debauchery, it wasn't like they hadn't done it before. The first time they had intimate contact, wasn't it also in broad daylight? Jingwon didn't have any scruples at this time. The two people were in a daze in the room, as if they had completely forgotten the important things. They observed 2 seconds of silence for Luo Jingying, who was still sleeping. Lucier came to Jin Wangfu. However, Jingwon and Lee Hongyuan still hadn't come out of the room. The attendants were also pretending to be dead and didn't dare to disturb them. They only said that it was inconvenient for Wang Fei to see people at this time. At this time, Lucier was wholeheartedly thinking about Luo Jingying and didn't think too much about it. When Jingwon came out of the bath and found out that Lucier was in the fu, she was extremely embarrassed. The result of her embarrassment was that Lee Hongyuan's waist suffered a calamity and was pinched several times by Jingwon. However, Lee Hongyuan's muscles were hard and couldn't be twisted. Being pinched twice didn't make much of a difference. He held Jingwon's hand, his eyes deep and serene. "Good heart, don't seduce me." Jingwon fiercely glared at him. In fact, she was even more annoyed that she didn't live up to expectations and was led by him to become more and more shameless. She turned around and went out. To be honest, to be able to do this kind of thing at this time, Jingwon was wondering if she was muddle-headed. She went to see Lucier. Fortunately, Lucier didn't ask anything and also didn't have the mind to look at Jingwon's body. Third aunt, the doctor in the fu and the imperial physician have seen her. Fourth sister is fine for the time being. But if she doesn't wake up for a long time, I'm afraid her life will be in danger. In fact, the main reason is that she doesn't want to wake up. Lucier looked at Luo Jingying with red eyes and listened to Jingwon's words. After a while, she reacted and then tears rolled down her face like broken beads. "It's all my fault, it's all my fault." Lucier choked with sobs and cried for a long time before she slowly stopped. "It's all my fault. You should blame me. I taught her to be like this, but at the end of the day, I abandoned her." Because the person who was sent to the Luo family was Baishao, she clearly explained what happened before and after Luo Jingying's suicide. If Luo Jingying didn't find a way to escape from Prince Rui's mansion and then commit suicide in front of Jingwon, nothing would have happened. Perhaps Lucier still wouldn't care about her. People were so bad that they wouldn't be moved until they had to. Jingwon believed that Lucier couldn't escape from this. At this point, no matter who was right or wrong, there was no need to pursue the matter. The most important thing was to wake Luo Jingying up. "Third aunt, you can talk to her more. As long as she has the will to live, she can get through this." "Thank you, third lass. Thank you." Lucier thanked sincerely. She knew very well that if it wasn't for Jingwon, her daughter might have been dead. Moreover, she wouldn't even be able to see her for the last time. "It's all my fault in the past. It's all my fault." It's meaningless to say these things now. Let bygones be bygones. It wasn't that Jingwon was magnanimous. It was just that those things in the past didn't affect her much. They were mainly aimed at her mother. Her mother was naive and sweet. She was lucky that someone helped her resolve it. She forgot about it and didn't have any shadow in her heart. "You're so kind. How can others do it?" Jingwon smiled but didn't say anything. She didn't think that she was kind. She asked someone to bring the letter of releasing concubines and gave it to Lucier. "Third aunt, you can keep it." Lucier naturally knew what it was. Although she didn't know the process of getting the letter of releasing concubines, she knew that it wasn't simple. After all, the other party was a prince. It wasn't easy for ordinary people to get the letter of releasing concubines unless the girl's family was more powerful than the boy's family, and it was definitely the boy's fault. Which family would let a girl be a concubine who wasn't as powerful as the boy's family, unless the girl's family suddenly became powerful? Therefore, the letter of releasing concubines was really rare. The letter of releasing concubines was probably the first one in history. Lucier's hands trembled as she took the letter of releasing concubines. She looked at it and then carefully put it away. "Does third aunt want to take fourth Mimi back or let her stay in the Wangfu? I want to take care of her personally, but this doctor, Lucier as an aunt, wasn't suitable for her to stay in the Wangfu. Wangye has found another doctor, but he's not in the capital. He still needs 2 days. If third aunt wants to take fourth Mimi back, it's not impossible. When the time comes, let the doctor go directly to Luo family." "Thank you, third Yas, really." Lucier took Luo Jingying back to Luo family. Naturally, not many people knew about this matter. As for how it would be handled in the end, it was up to the 2 elders of the Luo family and Jin Wangye to decide. Of course, Li Hongyuan wouldn't take this matter to heart. He would certainly do whatever Jingwon said. Obviously, Jingwon wouldn't intervene in this matter. At night. "Wan, tomorrow noble consort Su may summon you to enter the palace. When the time comes, we'll see how it goes. You don't need to wrong yourself. She didn't summon you today because she wanted to give you some buffer time. Then, it's most likely that she wants to find your grandfather to benefit. So, you naturally don't need to be polite with her. If there's anything, your grandfather and I will arrange it." Jingwon nodded her head. "Don't worry, I know what to do." When she confirmed her marriage with Li Hongyuan, she had already mentally prepared herself for the battle, and learned a lot of these things from Gong Mama. "I naturally believe you. When this matter is over, let's go to the country estate to live for a while." Jingwon's eyes slightly brightened. "Okay." At this time of the year, going to the country estate to live, it couldn't be more pleasant. Li Hongyuan smiled faintly and hugged Jingwon. His gaze was gentle. He felt that the current situation wasn't bad, but the things that should be fought for still had to be fought for. Without power, it was impossible to guarantee this peace. Without power, he also couldn't protect her for a lifetime of peace. Afterwards, putting these matters aside, the husband and wife nestled together to read leisurely books. Occasionally, they would whisper a few words and rub their ears against each other. It was indescribably warm. Li Hongyuan's people all sighed. Sure enough, it was good that Wang Fei entered the door. The little rascals, because they didn't have the pressure of the living king of hell, they seemed to be living freely these days. However, they were also a little worried. They were afraid that their master would be intoxicated by the warmth and tenderness. From now on, the monarch will not attend morning court. However, it was clear that they were thinking too much. When Jingwon fell asleep, Li Hongyuan got up and went to the study. He was still that unsmiling living king of hell who seemed to be haunted by a vicious aura. Li Hongming is too idle. Let's find something for him to do. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653405. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken. Chapter 254. And the others silently lit candles for Prince Rouet. What too idle? Clearly, he didn't have time to find trouble. Previously, he almost lost the Emperor's heart. It hadn't been long, and now it happened again. Basically, one could imagine how irritable Prince Rouet would be. With Prince Rouet to worry about, Gui Fei probably didn't have time to find Wang Fei to chat. Of course, this finding trouble wasn't just a matter of words. Not only did it have to really make Li Hongming badly battered and unable to free himself, but it also had to be done so flawlessly that no one would be able to detect that Li Hongyuan was the mastermind behind this. Li Hongyuan had been dormant all these years, secretly gathering people. Naturally, this method was endless. Because of foresight, even if he couldn't remember clearly, as long as he had a vague impression, he would send people to investigate. Naturally, it would be twice the result with half the effort. Coercion and bribery were all trivial matters. He also forced people into a dead end and then had no choice but to submit. Sometimes not only did he not hide it, but he also clearly told you in front of people, letting you know who the enemy was. In this way, on the surface, they were other people's people, but secretly loyal to him. Therefore, the spies in his hands were definitely more capable than most, and could even come into contact with the core things. Because if Li Hongyuan wanted to deal with someone, it was much easier than his brothers. To be honest, Li Hongyuan felt that he could become the final winner in such a situation in his previous life. In this life, with such a big advantage, if he still lost, then he didn't need to live anymore. He methodically ordered things to be done. Moreover, even if Li Hongming asked for benefits from Luo Shangshu, he also had to make him think that he ate a meat pie, but in fact he ate poison. Even if he noticed, he couldn't spit it out. He also had to let others know that he used a concubine release letter to obtain great benefits. At that time. Therefore, on this night, many people in the capital secretly made a move. Before the wedding, Li Hongyuan settled the matter and rested in the study. Now, of course, he would not do that. He slept best with Jingwan in his arms, so why should he endure poor sleep? When he slept with his wife in his arms, even if the sky fell down, he would wait until he woke up. Li Hongyuan tidied up and went to bed. When he was close to Jingwan automatically leaned over. "Did Yuan go out?" Jingwan said, half asleep, her voice a little hoarse. "Yes, I was dealing with something. Did I disturb you?" Li Hongyuan pulled her into his arms and smoothed her hair. "Go to sleep." "Okay," Jingwan responded in a low voice. Soon she woke up from her dream. The next day, noble consort Su indeed sent someone to summon Jingwan to the palace. Li Hongyuan originally wanted to accompany her to the palace, but Jingwan refused. She smiled and said, "This harem is a woman's battlefield. Noble consort Su wants to be a good mother. If she doesn't pull you in, I can naturally be a good wife. Don't worry, Your Highness, I can deal with it. I may not be as good as noble consort Su in those dirty tricks, but I'm not afraid of her. Although Your Highness can shelter me from the wind and rain, I'd rather walk side by side with Your Highness than be a daughter flower attached to you. Moreover, these days are too comfortable. It's too boring without any wind or waves." Jingwan's words in fact expressed her attitude, to walk side by side. Li Hongyuan smiled and kissed her forehead. "I'm looking forward to it." He knew that Jingwan was open-minded. He was willing to protect her for a lifetime. In a situation where there was no danger, he didn't mind Jingwan showing her ability and talent. Although there wasn't any space for her to show off, she still wanted to find some fun and adjust her life. Entering the palace today wasn't a big deal, so he was naturally willing to help her. Usually Jingwan didn't put on much makeup, but today she put on simple makeup. The originally bright and moving Jean Qin Wang Fei became a bit haggard. Her expression was a bit sorrowful, like a blooming flower that was a bit wilted. Li Hongyuan raised his eyebrows. Wan's makeup is also very good. If it was a bit darker, it would be comparable to a disguise. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he definitely wouldn't have known that it was also makeup. People who hadn't seen it before would definitely be easily fooled. It's just a little trick. Thus, Jing-wan entered the palace while Li Hongyuan continued to grow moldy in the prince's mansion. Only he himself knew whether he was really growing moldy or not. When he was scheming against others, would he still shout out loudly? Jing-wan entered the palace and directly went to the Jade Essence Palace. The atmosphere in the Jade Essence Palace was a bit wrong. When they saw Jing-wan's appearance, it was even more wrong. Jing-wan entered the main hall of the Jade Essence Palace and found that there were still several imperial concubines present. These were the sisters-in-law who received the big gift yesterday. Did they enter the palace early in the morning to complain to their respective imperial mother? Ah. Daughter-in-law greets imperial mother, greets imperial concubines. Quickly get up. What's wrong with you, child? Why is your complexion so bad? Imperial concubine Su asked with concern. I've made imperial mother worry. Daughter-in-law just didn't sleep well last night. It's fine. Jing-wan smiled faintly. Thinking about it, Jean Wangfei just got married and is tired. One of the imperial concubines covered her mouth and laughed. However, although this person is young, she can't be too indulgent. In the end, women can't compare to men. Wangfei should leave 2 more people to share. Isn't it just giving the person to your son? This is trying to use beauty to hook them up. It's really not that serious. Speaking of which, as a prince, which one hasn't seen countless beauties? If it's that easy to indulge in them, then there's no need to mingle. What's the point of doing errands? Just go home and drink yourself to death. Jing-wan pretended not to understand. Her eyes were still a bit defensive. It seemed that she was absent-minded and didn't hear it at all. Imperial concubine Su was also fed up. This early in the morning, she came to her and chirped. Her words were all about her new daughter-in-law being jealous and not virtuous. Because Jean Wangye was greedy for flowers, she couldn't bear to see other couples have a good relationship. Using a beauty to drive a wedge between other people's feelings. Her thoughts were really vicious. She didn't care about these, but she also vaguely mentioned the matter of releasing a concubine, which made people angry. Jing-wan also didn't know what these people were thinking. If she knew, these people's imagination was also very strong. However, imperial concubine Su was also secretly examining Jing-wan. Forcing her son to write a concubine release letter. Such a great shame and humiliation. How could she, as his mother, not be angry? But in the end she endured it. However, through this point, it was clear that the Luo family didn't care about Luo Jingying as much as they imagined. Perhaps everything was a facade made by that old thing, Luo Peishan. That old thing was also very powerful to be able to deceive them. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so ruthless in the matter of Luo Jingying. Speaking of which, Li Hongming had suffered a loss in this aspect. In the future, she was afraid that he would restrain himself a bit. In this aspect, imperial concubine Su also reprimanded him a bit. But she didn't think about it. Her own attitude towards Luo Jingying was also to treat it as a plaything. Although she didn't despise or disdain it, she was also perfunctory and didn't care about it. At this time she was just giving advice after the fact. How could she not know what kind of virtue her son had? If she wanted to take care of it, she should have taken care of it long ago. Think about it. If people knew that Prince Rue was a cold-blooded and heartless person who coaxed and deceived a girl who had value, and completely disliked her when she had no value, who would betroth her to such a cold-blooded and heartless person? Speaking of which, wouldn't he have the same attitude towards those who were willing to help him? Then, who would dare to help him? Imperial concubine Su softly called out to Jing-wan twice, but there was no response. Anger flashed through her eyes. Princess consort Jean. Jing-wan seemed to be startled for a moment. She regained her senses. Sorry, imperial concubine mother, this daughter-in-law was distracted. "This child, what's wrong with you?" Jingwon smiled, but it was a bit forced. "One of my younger sisters got into a serious accident. The doctor said that her chances of survival were slim. Last night she had a dream, and the dream kept tossing and turning about. She said that she was afraid of the dark and was afraid of loneliness. She didn't want to leave like this, and she wanted the person she loved the most to compensate her. This daughter-in-law asked her who the person she loved the most was, but she didn't say. After going around in circles for an entire night, she finally said that she would personally look for that person." Imperial concubine Sue's face was a bit dark, but in the end she managed to calm down. Jingwon was quite curious about what she was thinking. Speaking of which, it seemed that the people from Qiyuan also believed in ghosts and gods. Should she make a fuss about this? Imperial concubine Sue knew that this matter couldn't be discussed openly. These sluts were here to see her make a fool of herself. How could she let them do as they wished? "How was the banquet held at Jin Qin Wang Fu yesterday?" "Very good. Ben Gong heard that you sent some courtesans to your sisters-in-law. It's better to be happy together than to be happy alone. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653406. HTML. Click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile edition. Chapter 255. Yes, it's better to enjoy it together than to enjoy it alone. Jingwon was quite frank. This was her original purpose, but some people thought they were infallible and took it for granted. They even thought that it was a gift for them. In fact, Jingwon really wanted to ask them how shameless they were. However, her frankness became shameless in some people's eyes. She dared to do it but didn't dare to admit it. She was obviously jealous, but she still wanted to find a good name for herself. Sure enough, she was just like Madame Sue, who was used to pretending. In that case, Princess Jean can't favor one and discriminate against the other. How can Princess Rue be left out? Imperial concubine, didn't you boast of being a good mother-in-law? You have never given your son a daughter-in-law. If you don't stop it now, wouldn't you be slapping your own face? If you stop it, what will happen if it is given to someone else? Who was Imperial concubine Sue? Did she want to embarrass her with this little trick? That's right. Sixth daughter-in-law can't favor one and discriminate against the other and leave out your third sister-in-law. If there are still people in the Fu, send 2 more to your third sister-in-law. If they please Princess Jean, it's also a merit for them. Jingwon understood. This was for Princess Rue, and Prince Rue wouldn't touch it. This also saved Jingwon's face. Her youngest daughter-in-law was harmonious with her sisters-in-law and happily sent her sisters-in-law gifts. Her eldest son was a gentleman and wasn't like other people who were despicable and filthy. He wanted to take all the good-looking women by his wife's side for himself. It didn't matter if these words were just to save face or not. In short, as long as Prince Rue didn't touch those deceitful people, these words would be firmly established. Not only couldn't Jingwon be labeled as jealous, but Prince Rue would also be better than other lecherous people. Zan was indeed a good mother-in-law. She was also an expert in palace politics. Right and wrong were black and white. She was always able to turn things around easily. When it was necessary, she could give you a lot of information without a deep meaning. When there was a deep meaning to something, she could also conclude it with a slap on the coffin. That was the literal meaning. If anyone wanted to extend it further, it would mean that they had a dirty mind and thought too much. You knew her intentions, but because she always lived up to her words, Lu Qingdi saw honesty. There were also concubines who wanted to retort, but they were stopped by people they were on good terms with. Then they understood the reasoning behind it and were so angry that their livers hurt. Not only did they not see Su Shi as a joke, They even gave her son the title of being a lecherous person and slandered her daughter-in-law. On the contrary, they wanted to bring up the matter of releasing the concubine's letter. But when they thought of Prince Jin's threat, they were afraid that if they didn't care, it would be their own son who would be out of luck. In the eyes of the living king of hell, there would be no such words as brotherly friendship. However, the son that they painstakingly raised, the adopted son, completely didn't give face to the biological son and helped the daughter-in-law who had just married into the family fight against his own brother. They didn't believe that she didn't have any thoughts in her heart. If it was anyone else, they would feel that they had raised a white-eyed wolf. Those who could remain indifferent were those who were hypocritical to the extreme. The people in the inner palace all thought that they had seen imperial concubine Su's face clearly. Only the emperor and Prince Jin believed it. However, as the saying goes, after wearing a mask for a long time, the fake would become real. Because imperial concubine Su had always been very good to Prince Jin, no one could find fault with her. Thus, even if they scolded imperial concubine Su in their hearts, they didn't dare to say it out loud. According to imperial concubine Su's words, Prince Jin was her son. If the two brothers had a conflict, she would either hit them 50 times with a plank or not help either side and ignore anyone. From this point it seemed that there was nothing wrong with it. Regarding imperial concubine Su's attitude towards Prince Jin, Jingwon felt that it wasn't very good to evaluate. She believed that this was a method similar to hypnosis. Imperial concubine Su kept on hinting to herself that he was her own son, her own son. Only by deceiving her like this could she have no grudge against this son. Imperial concubine Su sent the others out. In their hearts, they thought that they had already seen imperial concubine Su's joke. Even if they didn't pull it out, it didn't mean that it didn't exist. They were all insiders. If you want to pretend that you don't know, then pretend. Thus, only imperial concubine Su and Jingwon were left. Beside them were the palace servants of Jade Essence Palace. Noble consort Su waved at Jingwon lovingly and asked her to sit next to her. Then she talked about Luo Jingying openly. Jingwon's face was gloomy. She lowered her eyes and looked at the ground. Mufei, regarding the matter of releasing the concubine's letter, it's all Erxie's fault. Imperial concubine Su's expression was cold and severe in a place where Jingwon couldn't see, but it disappeared in a flash. This is indeed Prince Rue's fault. However, since your fourth sister wants to return to the Luo family, then go back and take a look. This concubine's letter is indeed too much. Erxie was worried about sister and was muddle-headed and impulsive. Mufei shouldn't be angry with Erxie. Without the concubine's letter, how could Luo Jingying completely break away from Prince Rue? At that moment, Jingwon thought that if possible, she would let Luo Jingying remarry. In this way, she naturally had to strangle all the hidden dangers in the cradle. Even if she had to conceal her identity and live with a different identity, she had to prevent people from getting a hold of her weakness. Otherwise, if she remarried, but Prince Rue didn't let go of the fact that she was his concubine and said that the Luo family's daughter was marrying a second time. At that time, no matter how many mouths the Luo family had, they wouldn't be able to explain it clearly. Seeing Jingwon's uneasy appearance, imperial concubine Su's eyes were cold. At that time, whether it was Ming-er or his wife, they had all told her in detail. Even if each of them had their own emotions, she also clearly knew that this new Erxie of hers wasn't muddle-headed and impulsive. She was very calm and was very accurate at grasping people's weakness. Otherwise, how could she force her son to write the concubine's letter on the spot? If this kind of person targeted outsiders, it would naturally make people happy. But if she targeted the most important person, then it would make people want to strangle her to death. Although Jingwon didn't raise her head, she always felt that imperial concubine Su's sharp gaze fell on her neck. Although she felt a bit cold, she didn't have any fear. There was only one Prince Jin in the world who didn't have any misgivings about taking revenge. However, there were some things that even he had to be apprehensive about. Otherwise, people like Prince Rue and Prince Kong would have already gone to see the King of Hell. Since things have already come to this, there's no need to say anything more. However, there should be a misunderstanding in this matter. What kind of person Prince Rui is, I, as his mother, couldn't be more clear. Jingwen, you were raised by your grandmother's side, far away from the scheming of the inner compound. This inner compound, there aren't many times when it's peaceful, do you understand? Jingwen raised her head, asking Mu Fei to give me some pointers. Imperial concubine Su faintly took a breath, feeling that her heart, liver, and lungs were all a bit painful. Pretending to understand when you don't know was disgusting, but pretending to understand when you know was infuriating. It's most likely that the other concubines in the inner compound of Prince Rui's residence were jealous and sowed discord in front of your fourth sister. Prince Rui was busy and didn't notice in a moment of carelessness, leading to an irreparable situation. Ben Gong also heard that it was a male fetus. Ben Gong's poor grandson. Ben Gong had been looking forward to it for many years. Imperial concubine Su couldn't help but use her handkerchief to wipe the corners of her eyes. Speaking of that child, Imperial concubine Su was really distressed. After so many years, she had truly seen such a boy. Not having a grandson was definitely the deepest pain in her heart, the most difficult thing to stand on. When she learned about it, she even fiercely scolded her son. It was also the first time she showed her displeasure to her daughter-in-law, Princess Lu. If it was a female fetus, you wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Is that so? Jingwen was a bit startled for a moment. Of course it is so. It's just that you have little experience, so you don't know how powerful it is. Then, isn't it wrongly accusing Prince Rui? Jingwen's uneasiness seemed to be a bit heavier. He's a big man, there's nothing wrong with being wrongly accused. It's his fault for not being able to unify the family. Jingwen breathed a sigh of relief as if to say, since you said so, I'm relieved. Imperial concubine Su felt another burst of pain in her heart, liver and lungs. If she didn't follow the routine, could she still have a pleasant chat? How is your fourth sister now? Jingwen carefully glanced at Imperial concubine Su. Mu Fei, the dream that this daughter-in-law said was real. I'm worried that a part of her soul has already left her body. Imperial concubine Su's breathing stagnated. She didn't know how many times she had been blocked today. The little slut was unwilling to die alone and wanted to drag her son along. Imperial concubine Su didn't believe it for a short while, but her heart was inexplicably panicked. Ghosts and gods were the most unpredictable. If her son's soul was really hooked. Where is she now? Is she still in Jin Qin Wang Fu? Or has she returned to the Luo family? Let's not talk about this for now. Go ahead and invite the imperial physicians. If you need any precious herbs, just say it. The key is to think of a way to cure her. After all, it was Prince Rui who let her down. If she really died like this, it would really be a sin. Imperial concubine Su sighed softly. With such sincerity, Jingwen was submissive. She was really worried that she wouldn't let go of her son even if she became a ghost. If such a thing happened, how many people in the imperial family and the harem would be able to live well? Not to mention others. Her husband, who had only been married for a few days, should bear the brunt of it. Many thanks, Mu Fei. Fourth sister has already been sent back to the Luo family. Then you should take some time to go back and see. Apologize to your grandparents on behalf of Ben Gong. You should also say a few good words for Prince Rui. After all, they are relatives of the same family. Don't misunderstand too deeply. Luo Peishan was a sensible person. As long as he was smart, he should know what to do. Therefore, although this matter was a great humiliation, there were also benefits to be gained. Imperial concubine Su thought that Jingwen was still young and didn't know much about these things since she was raised in the boudoir. Who would have thought that everything had been seen through long ago? Moreover, there was a good-for-nothing son, who was already secretly digging a hole. Jingwen left the imperial palace with the mission. Sitting in the carriage, her face was as calm as an ancient well. She lowered her eyebrows and narrowed her eyes, occasionally pulling at the handkerchief in her hand. These people were really acting like whores but still wanted to put up a monument to their chastity. After doing such a disgusting thing, they still had the audacity to ask for benefits. Weren't they afraid of choking to death? Jingwan's eyes also turned cold. Imperial concubine Yongyang, I hope your son can withstand it. When Jingwan left the prince's residence, Li Hongyuan was reading a book. When she came back, he was still in the same position, as if he hadn't moved at all. Jingwan changed her clothes, washed her makeup, and sat next to him. Is Prince usually so idle? As someone who was ambitious and secretly preparing to fight for the throne, shouldn't he be dog-tired every day? After all, he didn't have any power on the surface, so everything could only be done in secret. This way he would consume even more energy. But from the looks of it, she didn't see him doing anything serious these days. He really seemed like a prince of leisure. No, he seemed to have left last night. Jingwan was in a daze and thought that she was dreaming. Now that she thought about it, he should have really left. So, he was idle during the day and busy at night. But if that was the case, his spirit couldn't be so good. In private, Li Hongyuan always liked to hug Jingwan. Now was no exception. He pulled her into his arms, like some kind of territorial creature. He sniffed Jingwan's neck and even licked it. Jingwan shrunk her neck and tried to push him away. It was obvious that she couldn't push him away. Not only that, the strength of his hand suddenly increased. Jingwan felt that her waist was about to be broken by him. Jingwan took a deep breath and patted his shoulder. Be gentle, be gentle. What kind of mental illness is this? Jingwan had already noticed that this man seemed to be a little neurotic sometimes, and he was especially clingy. Just based on this point alone, he really didn't seem like a man, but more like a child who needed to be coaxed. Moreover, sometimes if she wasn't careful, she would accidentally touch his minefield, but she still didn't know why and where his minefield was. Her heart was tired. Li Hongyuan hugged Jingwan and kissed her fiercely before letting go. Jingwan felt that his mood was a little strange, but didn't argue with him. She cupped his face with both hands. What's wrong? Miss you. Li Hongyuan said faintly. Jingwan chuckled. How long has it been? I just went to the palace for a while. A day without seeing you is like 3 years. How many days have I not seen you? Jingwan suddenly blushed. Although it was a little cliché, this man's sweet-talk skills were full of points. Don't change the topic. I'm asking you, why are you so free? Li Hongyuan made a tisk sound. Who was the one changing the topic? Didn't Wan say that the lower ranks work hard, the middle ranks work hard, and the upper ranks work hard? I have to do everything myself. Why would I take care of the people below me? Your Highness is so relaxed. Even so, there weren't many people who could really be a hands-off boss. Take Lu Qingdi for example. He left the capital for the summer and refused to let his son be the regent of the state. It was fine if he asked about some important matters, such as the flood. However, in Jingwan's eyes, he still wanted to ask about the trivial matters from her grandfather. Didn't he find it tiring? I naturally have my own way of controlling my subordinates. Li Hongyuan didn't say anything like, don't suspect the people you use, and don't use the people you suspect. He had always believed in crushing people with strength. If anyone dared to betray him, they should be prepared to suffer his thunderous anger. Yes, Your Highness is the most powerful. Jingwan's compliment was very perfunctory. Li Hongyuan wasn't angry. He gently pinched her face. What did you say to noble consort Su? Jingwan said it concisely, mainly mentioning the dream she made up at the last minute. Li Hongyuan's eyes flashed with interest. Can be used. How do we use it? Jingwan asked curiously. There are more than one kind of things in the world that can make people hallucinate. Using various methods to hint at the target, even if the target wants to deny it, it will be difficult. Li Hongyuan said slowly. Now there's a relatively high-end hint skill. Li Hongyuan laughed. Wan probably didn't know that it was actually her who said it. In his previous life, he had achieved his goal more than once with hallucinogens and hints. Now she was looking at him with sparkling eyes. It was really unexpectedly cute. Jingwon didn't ask about the specific operation. Actually, there's one thing I don't understand. Since Imperial Father pampers you so much, it doesn't seem fake. Why would he rather raise you than pave the way for you and leave the throne to you? In fact, this should be a question that many people wanted to know. In fact, he didn't avoid this point. Anyway, there were more than one or two people who knew about it. The green mask said it casually. Jingwon was a little dazed. For some reason, she felt sorry for him. Because of this identity, he was nailed with the sign that the throne is not something he can covet. Unfortunately, the man sitting on the throne used his so-called doting method to make this son a target. If he wanted to live, he couldn't shrink back. He had no power, no influence, and no one to help him. How difficult was it to walk step by step until he was in control of the universe? What are you afraid? Lee Hongyuan smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in his eyes. Everyone could be afraid of him. Won couldn't. Everyone could leave him. Won couldn't. Everyone could betray him. Won couldn't. Yes, what should I do? Jingwon teased, but she didn't know that she had stepped on a minefield again. She was courting death. Sure enough, Lee Hongyuan's eyes rolled like a storm in an instant. The smile on the corner of his mouth slowly disappeared, and the hand holding Jingwon slowly tightened. It was as if the temperature of his body was dropping. He was no longer a human but a cold-blooded animal, which looked terrifying. Obviously, he was still the same person, but Jingwon felt as if he had completely changed into another person. It was as if he had changed his core in an instant. She couldn't stop trembling. Ayuan. Lee Hongyuan tore her clothes directly, threw her on the bed, and invaded her in the most primitive way. Fortunately, even if he lost his mind, he didn't really hurt her subconsciously. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653411. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken. Chapter 256. When this grand ceremony was over, Jingwon's whole body was limp. She didn't even have the strength to move her fingers. For a long time her mind was blank. She didn't even know what day it was. Lee Hongyuan hugged her in his arms as usual. He hugged her even tighter. It wasn't very comfortable. Jingwon didn't have the strength to push him away. In fact, she didn't want to push him away. Even if it was just a little push, she didn't have any other intention. She just felt a little uncomfortable and wanted him to loosen up a little. That was all. However, it was as if she had touched his nerve. In the blink of an eye, he would torment her desperately. To be honest, it wasn't that the pain was unbearable. However, that kind of continuous extreme pleasure made her feel as if her body was being squeezed dry. Jingwon previously thought that a certain someone's sex was a little too good. After that, she realized that it was the result of this bastard's restraint. Although he didn't eat every day, even if it was a day or two frequency, he would eat until he was full and satisfied every time. Sooner or later, she would die in bed. Both of them were dripping with sweat. The bed was also a mess. There were traces everywhere. It was enough to see how crazy the process was. However, a certain someone still didn't have the intention to get up. Before Jingwon got married, she had actually noticed that a certain someone might be a little misophobic. Moreover, he didn't like others to get close to him. She seemed to be the exception. Now that things had become like this, he was still enjoying it. She was probably his true love. Jingwon's brain was in a mess. As time went by, Jingwon finally recovered. Her heart was actually a little bitter. How should she put it? Now it was like a giant python entangling its prey. Although the scene wasn't so cruel and terrifying, Jing-won felt that she was really the prey that was about to suffocate. Also, his palm that scratched her skin and his tongue that licked her sweat. This bastard was actually not a human. He was a snake demon, right? Well, he probably wasn't a snake demon. He was probably just a psychopath. And it was the kind that was seriously sick. From the beginning to the whole process of lovemaking, and now Jing-won was clearly aware of this point. Recalling the past, Jing-won had basically confirmed that his mentality was actually a little abnormal. Are you afraid? Any normal person would be repulsed by such a person. However, Jing-won did not feel repulsed by him, especially now that she was awake and her brain had returned to normal. Why did this man suddenly go crazy? What's wrong? Are you scared? Yes, what should I do? Although he was laughing at that time, Jing-won had already sensed the heaviness at that time. Her heart ached for him. Her original intention was to turn the page in a more relaxed manner. Things like the Japanese to her were pure nonsense. What was there to care about, let alone be afraid? However, she seemed to have used the wrong method, or rather, used the wrong words. No matter how dark a person's heart was, there would still be a soft place. Perhaps, he did not wish for the people around him to be afraid of him and alienate him. Or, to be more narcissistic, he was only targeting himself. And Jing-won felt that her narcissism was not untraceable. If that was really the case, her answer at that time, even that seemingly indifferent and heartless attitude to him, might have been the greatest harm. If that was really the case, it was no wonder that he would turn dark. Although Jing-won had not come into contact with psychology in her previous life, she knew a psychologist and heard him talk about a similar situation. Under the situation where he had clearly lost control, he could still not hurt her. If someone said that she had no place in this man's heart, even she herself would not believe it. Jing-won was a person who lacked love. Although she was rational and controlled her emotions, but even she herself did not know that as long as a hole was smashed in her heart, it would be easier for her heart to soften. Naturally, it would also be easier for her to be moved. She did not like to flirt, but if you let her see your sincerity and use your actions to tell her that she was the only one for you, then it would not be as difficult to win her heart as imagined. Therefore, even if she knew that Lee Hong-yuan had a psychological problem, she would not avoid him because of it. Jing-won reached out and hugged him, gently stroking his back as if to comfort him. Lee Hong-yuan's eyes were gloomy. His rationality had long returned, but his mentality had not been completely adjusted. Otherwise, he would not have been so ruthless and would not have still been entangled with Jing-won and refused to let go. He had always been very confident in his self-control. In the past, unless he allowed himself to lose control, losing his rationality and whatnot was a joke. He never thought that Jing-won's few words would make him lose control to this extent. If he had her, he would be able to eliminate his demons and reduce his obsession. Now, Lee Hong-yuan only wanted to ridicule him. He had probably completely fallen into the hands of this woman, and he would never be able to make a comeback. So, however, Lee Hong-yuan was a little surprised by Jing-won's current reaction. He had already prepared himself for Jing-won to be angry and even for their relationship to worsen. He knew very well that if Jing-won alienated him, he would only become worse and go overboard. It was simply a vicious cycle. Even though he knew this, he would not do as she wished. On this point he would never compromise. His little sweetheart was actually not angry. This was good. Lee Hong-yuan laughed softly. He laughed very happily but also very neurotically. Get up, I want to take a bath. It's so uncomfortable. Jing-won's throat was a little dry and a little painful. She wanted to curse and lazily pinched the back of the neck of the bastard who had made her so miserable. If I continue to hang out with you like this, sooner or later I will fall. Isn't it good to fall with me? Jing-won lifted her eyelids and glanced at him. So he was still on the verge of relapsing. She softly said, If you only want to pull me down, then I will risk my life to accompany the gentleman. And only us, no one else. Li Hongyuan was in a good mood as he rubbed against Jingwan's neck. This matter seemed to have passed. Jingwan didn't mention it, and Li Hongyuan also didn't take the initiative to explain anything. When Li Hongyuan had people prepare the water, the people guarding outside all breathed a sigh of relief. Because today's time was indeed a little long. Gong Mama had interfered midway, and as a result, Li Hongyuan was unprecedentedly furious. At the beginning, they had sensed that his mood wasn't right, so they were worried that he would hurt Wang Fei. Jin Qinhuang was cold and ruthless, malicious and ruthless. That was deeply rooted in people's hearts. Li Hongyuan carried Jingwan into the clean room and, as usual, put contraceptive medicine in the water. Then, the two people leaned against each other and talked in a sticky manner, but they didn't think that there was a problem at all. Gong Mama stood outside for a while before she breathed a sigh of relief and left. Li Hongyuan put one hand on the edge of the bathtub, and the other hand held Jingwan in his arms. Probably because he was really full this time. His palm gently caressed her body without any lust. His whole person exuded a satisfied and languid aura. Jingwan was leaning on his shoulder as if she had no bones. Seeing him like this, she couldn't help but feel angry. She always felt that even if the previous matter was her own doing, she couldn't let this bastard off so easily. Her whole body seemed to have been disassembled and then reassembled. That feeling wasn't too satisfying. Everything was just her guess. Maybe there were other reasons. Moreover, those who didn't know couldn't be blamed. Why should she suffer? Jingwan reached out and poked his shoulder. From tonight onwards, go sleep in the study by yourself for half a month. Li Hongyuan didn't care about this small matter. He just lowered his eyes slightly and smiled faintly. He looked at Jingwan with some playfulness. Wan, are you sure you want to do this? Jingwan was a little scared by his gaze and couldn't help but move away. If Wan wants to be bedridden for a few days, I don't mind sleeping in the study for half a month. Jingwan's face darkened. She wanted to say, do you think you're an animal? However, she didn't dare to say this out loud. This was tantamount to a provocation, and who knew what the consequences would be. She shut her mouth sullenly. Li Hongyuan's smile became more obvious. He reached out and lifted Jingwan's chin. Wan, are you going to kick me out of the room? I'm looking forward to it. He even licked his lips suggestively. Jingwan felt terrible. She felt like she had nothing left to live for. Could this guy be returned? Who knew that a certain someone who could only sleep well while hugging Jingwan? Even if Jingwan was stubborn this time, she definitely wouldn't be able to kick him out. The result of messing around was that she had already missed lunch. For some unknown reason, Li Hongyuan took care of the entire feeding process. That's right, Jingwan only needed to open her mouth to feed him. It was very embarrassing to do it in front of so many servants. However, before Jingwan could resist, a certain someone smiled suggestively. Jingwan became obedient. Li Hongyuan seemed to have grasped her weakness. After today's torment, Jingwan didn't have the energy to go to the Luo residence. The next day after breakfast, Jingwan tidied up and prepared to go to the Luo residence. Even if noble consort Su didn't have the task, Jingwan would still go to the Luo residence. Not to mention other things, there still needed to be a plan for how to settle Luo Jingying. Does Prince want to go? Jingwan had a maidservant tidy up her clothes as she turned around and asked. It's one thing to throw this prince into the palace yesterday, but it seems like you're going to throw this prince back to my paternal home again today? What the hell was this tone that seemed to carry a bit of hidden bitterness? Jingwan couldn't help but twitch the corner of her mouth. She felt that a certain someone had unlocked a strange attribute. Would one day be tormented by him until she had a nervous breakdown. Jingwan took Li Hongyuan, who was a medicinal plaster, to the Luo residence. Without the prince's ceremonial entourage, they could save on a bit of red tape. Luo Jingying's situation didn't improve, so Jingwan went to take a look. Madame Lu was personally attending to her. Jingwan comforted her a bit, then turned and went to the main courtyard. However, the situation in the main room was a bit hard for her to believe. Not only was a certain person not sitting in the main seat, he was holding a little girl in his arms. It was Luo Jinghua and Sun Ijia's daughter, Jingwan's little niece. Li Hongyuan only used a bit of strength with one hand. The little fellow was spread out on his lap, while his other hand was holding her little hand. It was like if the little fellow moved even a little, she would fall off his lap. Everyone in the room was scared witless, especially Sun Ijia. She wanted nothing more than to go up and snatch her daughter back. However, a certain person didn't have any self-awareness. It was as if all of his attention was on the little fellow. When Jingwen came in, he raised his head as if he sensed something. His expression unconsciously softened and a faint smile appeared on his face. The lethality of the blooming peony was not small. Handsome, noble and elegant. Even Jingwen, who was often poisoned by him, couldn't help but feel her heart skip a beat. Naturally, there was no need to mention the maidservants waiting on the side. Their faces and ears turned red as they hurriedly lowered their heads to greet Jingwen. Jingwen hurriedly came forward and asked her grandmother and sister-in-law to dispense with the formalities. Then she turned back to Li Hongyuan and held her little niece. "Wangye, the way you held the child was very dangerous. Don't worry, she won't fall." Li Hongyuan adjusted his sitting position. His elbows were on the armrest of the chair. He held his chin and slightly raised his head to look at Jingwen, who was skillfully coaxing the child. He didn't feel that this scene was warm. Instead, he felt that it was a bit of an eyesore. Just imagine if the child was his and Jingwen's. That eyesore didn't seem to disappear at all. "Take the child down." Li Hongyuan glanced at Sun Ijia. His face was expressionless and cold. With his moral integrity, Sun Ijia really wanted to slap him. Just now, when he was smiling and looking at Mimi Wan, it was all fake. But the other party's status was noble, so Sun Ijia could only endure it. She smiled and said to Jingwen, "It's time for her to drink milk. I'll take her down now. Come back later and we can talk." She also knew why Jingwen came back today. Jingwen nodded. Then Madame Luo dismissed the servants, leaving only the three of them in the room. Regarding fourth Mimi's placement, what do grandmother and grandfather think? Jingwen got straight to the point. "Originally, we thought that after she woke up, we would quietly send her back to Qian Manor. However, your third aunt begged us, saying that she let her daughter down and didn't want your fourth Mimi to be all alone. Because of Xiao Ba, she couldn't follow her back to Qian Manor, so we wanted to keep your fourth Mimi in the capital. Fourth Mimi is Prince Rue's concubine after all. In order to protect their reputation, they definitely don't want others to know that fourth Mimi has returned. Who knows, in 2 days, the news of fourth Mimi's death will be released. If others know that fourth Mimi is still alive and well, it won't be good for anyone. 2 days ago, Prince Rue and I also said that fourth Mimi died." Jingwen said. "In that case, if we want to have the best of both worlds, we can only change her identity. First, let her live in the manor for a period of time, then bring her back under the name of a relative's child. Let her stay in the manor and talk about profound matters in a simple way. Now, I reckon that she won't be so restless that she wants to run out all day long. Even if people know of her existence, it can be concealed. In another 2 or 3 years." Madame Luo looked at Li Hongyuan meaningfully. At that time, when Li Hongyuan was in power, he wouldn't have any scruples. Even if he directly told the public that Luo Jingying was a widow, there would probably be people coming to ask for her hand in marriage. This was something that everyone was well aware of. Jingwen nodded. It was decided just like that. Then, Jingwen simply said a few words about what happened in the palace yesterday. "Wan, you don't have to worry about this. Everything will be handled by your grandfather. Otherwise, there's still Prince Rue." Li Hongyuan nodded as if it was a matter of course. Naturally, he would be there for everything. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653415. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After making a report, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile edition website. Bicken. Chapter 257. Li Hongyuan nodded as a matter of course. Naturally, he was there for everything. Chapter 7. Jing-won glanced sideways at him. To be honest, such an egomaniac really made people drunk. And Li Hongyuan always seemed to be able to sense it at the first moment. He responded with a flirtatious smile that made people blush and their hearts beat faster. In the eyes of outsiders, they were so intimate and had a tacit understanding. Old Madame Luo held the teacup and took a sip, pretending as if she didn't see anything. She was old and couldn't stand the closeness of young people. However, this was her most beloved granddaughter and her husband. The better the relationship between the two, the happier she would be. Naturally, she wouldn't be that annoying wooden club. Jing-won glanced at her own grandmother. She didn't seem to notice. She breathed a sigh of relief and quickly sat upright. To be so closeness in front of an elder, this level of shame would explode by at least 50%. If it was under the premise of the open atmosphere in her previous life, it would be a bit better. The acceptance level would be high, but in the current environment, it might be a big stimulation. Li Hongyuan didn't comment on this grandfather-granddaughter pair. One acted as if she didn't know, and the other deceived herself as if the other didn't see. Jing-won belatedly thought of a problem. Grandmother had great trust in Jean Qin-wong. This trust couldn't be built overnight. Therefore, it couldn't be during the time after the marriage. Regarding the nature of Jean Qin-wong, she and her grandfather had long understood. At this time, she was afraid that it had to be traced back to before the engagement. Moreover, this understanding was most likely deeper than she thought. There was a kind of feeling that others knew but she didn't know. Well, she wasn't angry. Grandmother must have her reasons for not telling her, so there was no need to take it to heart. After casually talking about business, he casually talked about private matters. Wang Ye likes children very much. Old Madame Luo asked. How do you know? Just because I just hugged that little thing. I'm just bored. She was his wife's grandmother. Li Hongyuan still had some patience to answer her boring question. Thinking about it carefully, Li Hongyuan really had no feelings about having a child. Not to mention that having a child would definitely divert his wife's attention. A woman giving birth to a child was a matter of life and death. If Wan's life was threatened, then he would not hesitate to give up the child. Although it was in a man's nature to continue his bloodline, it was definitely not now. Even in the future, he would let nature take its course. He would definitely not force it. Seeing that he really didn't take it seriously, old Madame Luo didn't say anything. Speaking of which, in Emperor Lu Cheng's eyes, he didn't have the right to inherit the throne. So, before the throne was replaced, it didn't matter if his son didn't have an heir. He was the only one who didn't have to consider the issue of heirs in the process of fighting for the throne. Jing-won knew more about this, but she remained silent. Old Madame Luo wanted to stay for dinner, but it was still early. Jing-won saw that Li Hongyuan was very bored, so she refused. Old Madame Luo felt lost. Now it was not so easy to ask her granddaughter to stay for a meal. However, she didn't force it. Her granddaughter was married, so it was normal for her to be a little biased. After leaving the Luo family, old Madame Luo asked, "What fun places are there in the capital? Wang Ye, do you have any recommendations?" Jing-won had been in the capital for more than a year, but she still hadn't explored all the places in the capital. She felt that she should reflect on herself. What fun can there be in the city? Let's go directly out of the city and go to the farmstead. Just leave like this. In this space-time for more than 10 years, She had never left as she wished. Anyone who went out of the city and couldn't come back on the same day had to prepare at least one day in advance. Even if she didn't go out of the city and just went to someone's house as a guest, she had to prepare something that might be useful. It was the first time for her to leave immediately after saying that she wanted to leave. When the carriage went out of the city gate, Jingwan still felt a little unreal. Shouldn't it be more troublesome for these nobles to go out? It was normal for them to be surrounded by attendants. This man was probably the only one who could go on the road so casually and capriciously like this. Jingwan also knew that everything couldn't be so simple. Eunuch Mu had disappeared. She thought that he either went back to the prince's mansion to pack things or went to the farmstead to make arrangements in advance. One sentence from the top and the other one from the bottom. However, no one felt that it was wrong. Even Jingwan also knew that this was the value of their existence. If they were useful, then they could exist. If they were useless, then they could get lost. After they got lost, it was hard to say what kind of life they would face. It was their greatest glory to be a servant who was trained well to perfectly fulfill any needs of their master. With Li Hongyuan's indulgence, Jingwan didn't obediently shrink in the carriage. She opened the window curtain and leaned on the windowsill, facing the cool breeze and admiring the beautiful scenery. She couldn't be too comfortable. There was a group of carriages in front of them. It looked like an ordinary caravan, but they should be quite familiar with the affairs of the capital. When they saw the carriage of Jin Wangfu, they hurriedly made people give way and stopped at the side. Thus, Jin Wangfu's carriages passed by them. As the saying goes, you are admiring the scenery, but you don't know that you have inadvertently become a beautiful scenery in other people's eyes. Of course, this didn't refer to Jingwan but Li Hongyuan. Alas, there were dogs everywhere. Who's in the carriage? A woman's interested voice came from one of the carriages that stopped at the side of the road. That's the carriage of Jin Wangfu, the sixth prince. There's no doubt that the one inside is Jin Wangfu. The woman at the window should be his princess consort who just got married a few days ago. She's from the minister's mansion of the Ministry of Personnel and has acknowledged Great Elder Princess as her foster mother, a man said softly. No wonder he's the most handsome man in Qi Yuan. His face is really worthy of his name. Master, are you paying attention to the wrong thing? The man said helplessly. Am I wrong? Except for his face, what else is worth paying attention to in Jin Wangfu? The man was speechless. It must be said that Jin Wangfu was so successful that everyone thought that he only had one face. He didn't know whether to mourn for him or praise him for being so skillful and hiding so well that he didn't miss anything. Although Li Hongyuan's attention was mostly on Jingwan, it didn't mean that he was unaware of what was going on outside. He wasn't too surprised that someone who shouldn't appear at this time appeared. He could only say that the person was quite bold. Don't talk about people who appeared in the previous life. Counting the memories from several decades ago, who could still remember what those people looked like? But Jin Qinhuang still remembered the identity of the important people. The spies sent out were not to be trifled with. If they couldn't even get a few portraits back, they could use death as an apology for their crimes. If one thought that he wouldn't be noticed or understood by others because he was in the boudoir, that was only under normal circumstances. When facing Li Hongyuan, who didn't use a cheat, he could be killed by him. After using a cheat, if he died without knowing the reason, he could only complain to the King of Hell. Li Hongyuan looked languid and didn't even bat an eyelid. However, if he appeared at this time, he might be able to help him catch some hidden fish that hadn't been discovered yet. Li Hongyuan's manor wasn't far. After leaving the city, it was only a little more than 2 shurchen. 1 shurchen equals 2 hours. Of course, as long as they didn't walk fast. When they arrived, it was almost lunchtime. And just as Jingwan expected, there were people who came first. Not only that, the people who went back to the Wangfu to pack up the chests and baskets were one step ahead of them. Xiai Gu and Fu's 4 maidservants. This ability was really strong. Once again, it made Jingwan's several head maidservants feel the crisis of losing their rice bowl. They weren't in a hurry to see how the manor was doing. Firstly, they were hungry. Secondly, Jingwan was a little dizzy and needed to rest before they could continue to have fun. Li Hongyuan now put his wife first in everything. Well, even in the past, his life was actually quite monotonous. Because of his outstanding ability and foresight in many things, there were no things that he found troublesome and needed to work hard to deal with day and night. His work efficiency was ridiculously high. In addition, he believed that those in power work hard, so he had a lot of free time. This was also one of the reasons why no one suspected that he was secretly causing trouble. He thought about himself and others. He was busy all day. How could a person who was idle and energetic be someone who was in the same line of work as him? It was probably because Li Hongyuan spent too much time outside that people felt that even the sickly fifth prince seemed to be more suspicious than him. His true temperament was his true temperament. His acting skills could be considered to be quite good. After resting for a while and filling her stomach, Jingwan was full of energy again. After a suitable digestion, Jingwan began to explore the manor. This manor was the imperial manor. It covered an area of several thousand mu. Not to mention the fact that it was built halfway up the mountain. It must have been built by Jin Qinhuang with his local tyrant style, and was exquisite beyond compare. Moreover, it was March when all kinds of flowers were in full bloom. The variety of flowers and trees were enough to make Jingwan's eyes dizzy. However, exploring a wider area was what Jingwan needed to do now. Her beloved could be put aside for now. Because the place was too big, Li Hongyuan directly took Jingwan to ride a horse. Jingwan had seen Li Hongyuan's ability to ride a horse. Therefore, no matter how rugged the road was, she wasn't the least bit worried. He wouldn't let himself get hurt or fall. Naturally, this kind of trust made people happy. However, for a certain someone who harbored ill intentions, it also made it less fun. Jingwan secretly gave him a supercilious look. The manager of the manor followed along and explained the layout of the manor to Jingwan. There were mountains and rivers in the manor. The scenery itself was beautiful, and there were all kinds of flowers and trees planted there. Most of the occupations in the manor were gardeners, but the layout was not a sea of flowers. Similarly, it was more like a garden with layers upon layers and different styles of the four seasons. There was a kind of poetic and picturesque blend of the perfect combination. Although it was said that, under the background of farming, it was a bit of a waste of natural resources. However, this place was very much in line with Jingwan's wishes. How to say it? It was like a manor that was specially built for her. Of course, Jingwan knew that this was impossible, because the scale of this manor was not something that could be achieved in a year. This was probably just a wonderful coincidence. Her own preferences just happened to coincide with someone else's. This kind of coincidence was also a wonderful experience that could not be put into words. Jingwan saw a fiery red from afar. That's red maple? Yes, red maple forest. Li Hongyuan nodded. Let's go and take a look. Jingwan was a little excited and urged. This road is relatively flat. One can ride a horse there by herself. Li Hongyuan said and turned over to dismount. Sitting on the horse, Jingwan grinned at him. This man was really too considerate. Giddy up. With a shake of the reins, the horse started to run. The speed was not very fast, but it was enough for Jingwan to experience the joy of galloping. Sister He and Baishao hurriedly followed on horseback. In addition, there were 2 female guards who seemed to be originally in the manor. Then there were the maids who served by the side. There was a large group of people. As for the people following Li Hongyuan, when they saw their master dismount from his horse, they naturally couldn't remain seated. Speaking of which, the horse that the princess rode away was their master's mount. Usually, no one except their master could ride it. Only the coachman who served it could touch it. The original intention was that the princess could ride it together with their master. Unexpectedly, the princess could ride it alone. It made people wonder if all beasts knew how to act according to their mood. Watching Jingwan run away, Li Hongyuan reached out his hand. And Yi respectfully presented a small roll of paper in his hand. Li Hongyuan crushed the small roll of paper and took out the paper roll hidden inside. He unfolded it and quickly skimmed through it. Then, he crumpled it into a ball and threw it out. An E caught it accurately. He took out a fire roll and burned it to ashes. Li Hongyuan did not give any orders. An E and the others waited quietly. Li Hongyuan walked towards the maple forest unhurriedly. There was no joy or anger on his face. No one knew what he was thinking. Jingwan entered the maple forest. The horse slowed down and moved forward unhurriedly. Although it was not autumn and there was no beautiful scenery of maple leaves, the scenery in front of her was still beautiful. Because it was carefully taken care of, there were no dead leaves left from the previous year. The green grass was only occasionally dotted with a few new leaves blown down by the wind. There were no dead branches on the trees, only the maple leaves that were burning to their heart's content. Then Jingwan also noticed that there were a few small streams that flowed slowly. When she got closer, she realized that the streams weren't deep. The deepest part was about the calves. Not only that, but the bottom was also covered with large and small pebbles. It was obvious that this stream was man-made and had put in a lot of effort. Jingwan slid down from the horse's back. She took off her shoes and socks, lifted up her dress, tied a knot, and waded into the water. The feeling of the pebbles pressing against her feet was actually very comfortable. Because Mama Gong often pressed the acupuncture points on the soles of her feet, she didn't feel any pain. Jingwan walked a small circle and looked at the group of people guarding by the side. She wanted to call them together, but after thinking about it, she decided against it. Even if she opened her mouth, the answer she would get would most likely be, "It doesn't make sense." In the entire manor, there was probably only one person who would mess around with her. Sure enough, it was better to enjoy together than to enjoy alone. Perhaps it was because Li Hongyuan had seen Jingwan wading barefoot into the water. The only person who followed behind her was Li Hongyuan. Jingwan smiled and waved at him. Li Hongyuan didn't refuse and walked straight over. The water quickly wet his shoes and socks. Jingwan raised her eyebrows and didn't stop him. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand and pulled her forward slowly. Jingwan cheerfully splashed the water with her feet. The smile on her face didn't fade. "Send the invitation back and invite your sisters and friends to play," Li Hongyuan suddenly said. Jingwan was stunned and raised her head to look at him. This man really knew everything. "Thank you, Ah Yuan. There's no need to thank me. You and I are husband and wife. It's my duty to do anything for you. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653416. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile edition. Chapter 258. No one should do anything for anyone, even if they were husband and wife, even if they were parents to their children. Jingwan wanted to say, "Don't be so good to me, I can't bear it." However, her lips moved, but nothing came out. Jingwan was rational and would not easily reveal her emotions, but sometimes her thoughts were written on her face. Just like now, Li Hongyuan could basically guess her thoughts. Even if he wanted to obtain her heart, he also hoped that her feelings would be relaxed and joyful. Falling in love with him was a happy thing, so he did not want her to feel that this feeling was heavy. It was a kind of debt. Feelings with impurities were not what he wanted. Li Hongyuan smiled and pinched the tip of her nose. "Moved? Remember to be good to me, okay?" Jingwan smiled but couldn't help but want to cry. Li Hongyuan was a little helpless. To let his own wife take other people's kindness for granted, there was still a long process. However, because the future was bright and not a deep darkness without hope, it would not cause people to fall into anxiety. Li Hongyuan suddenly bent down and carried Jingwan horizontally, and even maliciously threw her up. Caught off guard, Jingwon was so scared that she screamed and subconsciously wrapped her arms around his neck. Bastard ah! Wan scolds people, there is not the least bit of novelty. Feeling that he was not satisfied with being scolded. As a matter of fact, Jin Qinwang was worthy of being the capital's #1 hidden dandy. He was quite proficient in eating, drinking and playing. Even when he brought his own wife, he played with depth and interest. And Jingwon probably did not think that there were other good things hidden under the beautiful scenery in this manner. For the entire afternoon they played quite crazily. It was far from being comparable to Qian Fu. One must know that at that time playing was playing, and there were people who advised them not to go overboard. But now it was different with her own husband. As long as Jingwon had that intention, she did not even need to open her mouth. Li Hongyuan would take the lead. He was the boss, he had the final say. Who would dare to stop and say no? It could be said that they had completely abandoned the rules. Their clothes were soaked with sweat, their hair was messy, and their faces were stained with mud and tree sap from who knows where. The two of them, no matter which one, did not have their usual image. Jingwon pointed at Li Hongyuan, who was in a mess, and laughed until she could not straighten her back. Li Hongyuan, with helplessness and indulgence, asked, "Who caused me to be like this?" His birth and upbringing were destined that he would not be able to mess himself up. This was the first time in both the past and present lives. To be honest, even when he was hunted down in the past life, and then fought on the battlefield for several years, he had never been in such a sorry state. Jingwon admitted that she did it on purpose. She put her hands on her waist and slightly raised her chin, a little proud. "What can you do? What can I do? I wish I could hold you up to the sky. What can I do?" Even if she climbed on top of his head, it was because he spoiled her. And the people who were waiting at the side, whether it was Gong Mama, Mu Gonggong, or the servant girls and imperial bodyguards, they all refreshed their understanding of these two people. Sure enough, except for the two of them, it was impossible to dig out this side of them. On the way back they did not ride the horse. Li Hongyuan carried Jingwon on his back all the way, walking neither hurriedly nor slowly. Jingwon put her arms around his neck and whispered in his ear. Not only Li Hongyuan, but also others could feel her excitement. Speaking of which, although it was not unprecedented for a dignified prince to carry someone on his back, it was enough to explain a lot of things. "Are you that happy?" Li Hongyuan tilted his head and asked softly. Yes. Jingwon nodded vigorously. "Very happy. As long as you're happy." Li Hongyuan chuckled. "Is Yuan not happy?" He was a little obsessed with cleanliness, and he indulged her in playing like this. He really loved her. This understanding, although a little vulgar, made Jingwon happier and a little proud. "How can that be? I'm also very happy." Li Hongyuan was speaking the truth. Since he came back, he had been planning since he was only 10 years old, and there was almost no time for him to relax. Moreover, because he was always thinking of Jingwon, even if he relaxed, it was just that. Jingwon rubbed her face against his. Along the way, they whispered to each other, and there was an illusion of peace and quiet. When they returned to the manor, the servants had already prepared hot water. Now it was right to wash themselves clean. However, they were a little too dirty and needed someone to wait on them, so the two of them washed separately. Even if she did not see Si, Gu and Fu, Jingwon would not think that they were at Li Hongyuan's place. However, Jingwon was playing with the water and letting the maid wash her hair with interest, when there was a noise next door. "What's going on?" Jingwon raised her eyebrows in surprise. At this time, except for a certain person, there was probably no one who would make such a noise. "I'll go take a look," Servant Gong said. Servant Gong went quickly and came back quickly, but her expression was not very good. Jingwon looked at her with a questioning gaze. "The two bitches of the farmstead," Servant Gong said coldly. Jingwon immediately understood. This farmstead was not the same as other farmsteads. Although most of them were flower farmers, most of them still had a family to feed. As for whether they were tenant farmers or servants, Jingwon did not know yet. A certain person had too much property, and she was not in a hurry to find out. She had only seen a small part of it. There was a detailed roster for the composition of these people, but it was a waste of time if she did not match up. Li Hongyuan was so attentive to this farmstead, so he must have been here a lot. Then, it was normal for some of the girls in the farmstead to have feelings for him. One had to know that they did not come from good backgrounds and had limited experience. It was normal for them to want to climb up the social ladder and become phoenixes. Compared to coarse linen clothes and simple meals, how many girls could resist the temptation of exotic delicacies and luxurious food and climb into their master's bed and get these things at their fingertips? This kind of mentality would not be looked down upon. Perhaps it would even be wantonly encouraged. Only those who had no face and no figure would say such sour words. There was no such girl in the family who would climb up the social ladder. In the afternoon, when the two of them were playing crazily, Jingwon had already noticed the presence of some strangers. However, they only dared to look at them from afar. Jingwon could only see a figure. Because it was within her expectations, Jingwon did not feel the slightest ripple in her heart. After washing and tidying up, she walked out unhurriedly. The lights in the room were already lit. Li Hongyuan was reading a book. His hair was loose, and his outer clothes were only draped over his body. There were some water droplets on it, and it was very seductive. Jingwon frowned and walked forward. "Why didn't you dry your hair? Be careful of catching a cold." As she spoke, she picked up a cloth towel and carefully wiped his hair. "It's fine. I'm in good health." But he did not refuse Jingwon's actions. "You can't ignore your good health. What book are you reading?" "Travel notes. I'll read it to you." "Sure." A certain someone's voice was too pleasant to listen to. It was simply proportional to his face. Listening to him read was definitely a great pleasure. Speaking of which, Li Hongyuan was definitely the creator's favorite. He was so perfect that it was a little outrageous. Not only that, but he was also gifted with extraordinary talent and wisdom. Perhaps it was because of this that he had so many twists and turns in his relationship. Li Hongyuan's voice was neither soft nor heavy. Jingwon listened to it. Even though his hair was drying slower, she was still very patient. After drying it, Jingwon gently spread his hair with a comb. Then, she directly helped him to crown his hair. Although it was the first time she had crowned a man's hair, Jingwon was very satisfied. Li Hongyuan put the book aside and pulled her into his arms. "Have you practiced before? Isn't that natural? Needles and thread could be avoided." She could avoid entering the kitchen. These little things could still be learned. Li Hongyuan kissed her. "Are you hungry? Let's eat first." The two of them walked out of the inner room hand in hand. The dining table in the outer room had been set up and the dishes were served one by one. The other parts of the outer room were completely open. There were no doors or windows, and the scenery in the courtyard could be seen at a glance. Jingwon immediately saw a large crowd of people kneeling on the cobblestone road outside. The two women in the front had their heads down. They were wearing only undergarments and thin underwear. They were trembling. And the people behind them, Jingwon guessed that they were their family members. Probably hearing the noise, they all raised their heads. "Your Highness," one of the women called out pitifully. That expression and that sticky voice even made Jingwon have goosebumps. "Little bitch, shut up." An old woman next to her came forward and slapped her. Jingwon had never seen that old woman before. She thought that she should be someone from the manor. Jingwon frowned. This scene made her lose her appetite. "Your Highness, this is. You deal with it." Li Hongyuan didn't even lift his eyelids. Jingwon thought for a moment and understood his intention. "In that case, take them away first. We'll talk about it after dinner." Although she had long known that there were many people who coveted her husband, she had only thought about it in her heart and no one would do anything about it. However, this was only her first day at the farmstead and she dared to do such a thing. Was she deliberately disgusting? No matter how good her temper was, she would not be happy. If she was unhappy, she would let them kneel for a while. Perhaps Li Hongyuan knew that his wife would be unhappy if he kept them here until now. He was very attentive when he served her. Moreover, he was in a good mood. It was a good thing to be jealous. After dinner, they would digest the food together. Jingwan asked someone to bring them here. At this time, if they still didn't know who controlled their fate, then they were really stupid. Perhaps they saw Jingwan's tender face and knew that she had just married into the manor. In front of her husband, they would definitely not be ruthless in order to avoid leaving a vicious impression. This was something that no newly married woman wanted to see. They kowtowed and begged for mercy in an extremely pitiful way. At the same time, they didn't forget to praise Jingwan high. They said that she was merciful and a living bodhisattva. In other words, if they hurt them, she was vicious. Jingwan actually didn't understand. How could someone be so shameless? They tried to climb into her husband's bed. If they were punished, it would be a heinous crime. What right did they have? No matter what Li Hongyuan's purpose was, Jingwan was angry at this moment. Call all the widowers in the manor and those who are over 30 and have never married. Hearing this, the two girls and their families already knew Jingwan's intention. They cried and screamed. There's another manor next door. Mainly grows food. There should be more people who meet your requirements, Your Highness. Li Hongyuan said leisurely. Jingwan turned around and glared at him. He was always fooling around. How could she have to deal with such a mess? Wasn't it the responsibility of every wife to deal with these things? Li Hongyuan smiled innocently. Since they were together with people from another manor, it would definitely take some time to gather them. Anyway, they were not in a hurry now. They could wait slowly. Speaking of which, although the two manors were both owned by Li Hongyuan, the treatment of the two manors was very different. The people in the manors were all carefully selected. The most obvious thing was that when the master came, they couldn't dirty the master's eyes. Therefore, it was a little difficult for Jingwan to deal with the outsiders. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653420. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bikugo mobile reading website. Bicken.com. You're tuning in to the Whispers of Romance YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.